And the doctor looks at me at one point. She's like, I need you to push, like, your baby's life depends on it. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, I am pushing, like, everybody's life depends on it. Okay. Like, my life, baby's life, your life. Like, I am giving it all I've got. Hello, and welcome to the Twin Mom Life Podcast. I'm your host, Jess. I created this podcast to help build community, connection, and most importantly, friendships among moms of multiples. Being a twin mom can be amazing and magical. That twin bond is unlike anything I've ever witnessed. But it can also be isolating and overwhelming. I'll be chatting with other twin moms, diving deep into the twin experience, giving advice on what works for us so you don't have to learn the hard way. Juggling two babies at the same time is challenging, but I'm confident we can learn from each other and figure out how to raise these babies together.
Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you.
I'm so excited. Today we have Kara. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Kara. I live in Southern California. I was born and raised here. I am married to a wonderful man, Joshua, and I have identical twin girls, Elena and Nina. And I have a little peanut on the way that will be here in March, mid-March, or sooner. But yeah, I'm a registered nurse. I work in a pediatric ICU. That's my primary job. My husband is a physical therapist. He does home health. So we are in the healthcare field. We are navigating twin life and more baby life and the chaos, looking for a home hopefully to buy in this next year. So
Oh,
looking to upgrade our
exciting.
car soon. So yeah, lots of hopeful, exciting changes, but big changes coming. So we're excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we dive into all of the things twin mom life, what did you do today to fill your own cup?
I love that. Okay, so I've actually been every episode that you've had, I've actually been like, okay, Kara, what are you what is gonna be your fill your cup thing? And I've been like trying to be really intentional about it. And for one, I have two little things. The first one is I got to take an everything shower today and it was amazing. I washed and shampooed my hair and got to shave my legs and exfoliate. And I was like, this is amazing. And it was really nice. But the other thing, I have been in full blown nesting mode. And I was at Target this week picking up some stuff and actually like went into Target. I didn't do like a pickup order like I normally do. And I had to stop at the dollar spot section because you have to when you go into Target, you got to look. And they had this little one left. It was this little glass, like overnight oats jar with a cute little like wooden lid.
I
And
totally saw that this week at
yes,
Target.
yes, for like $5. And I was like, that's coming with me. And do I eat overnight oats? Haven't really before, but I'm not like, I love oatmeal. So I was like, so then I
You will now.
exactly. I know. I'm like, now I have an actual reason. And so I was getting some groceries and they had like the little prepackaged like overnight oat ones. I was like, can I just try these first? Cause they're like easy. I can literally just throw whatever milk I want, berries, and call it a day. And so every morning this week, I have been making myself overnight oats because when I wake up in the morning, I am ravaging. Like I am like, I'm not nauseous, but I'm like, I need to eat yesterday. So I go straight to the fridge and it's right there. And I put a little bit of honey on there and some berries. And it has been the most fun little, like, I mean, I still have a breakfast 20 minutes later, but it's still like the best little thing to wake up to. And I like love doing it every night. I'm like taking my prenatals and I'm making my little overnight oats. And I'm like, this is the best. It genuinely brought joy to my morning every day. And I feel like it's that on top of like my quiet time and prayer time, it's really like set my mornings off really well. And I find myself not as cranky because I'm not rushing to make the girls breakfast before I'm eating because I realize I run on fumes half the time when I'm trying to like cater to them, which is our job as moms. But then I'm also like, it's 11 o'clock and I haven't eaten anything and I have another baby that I'm supposed to be providing for. So I should probably eat something and drink something. So yeah, that's been my like little fun fill my cup this week thing as I've been making myself overnight oats and it's been really nice. I've been enjoying it.
I love all of that. And I feel like it's so important. I feel like a big thing I've learned in motherhood is that you cannot pour from an empty cup.
No,
So I love
absolutely
that
not.
you have, right? So that's also great. So we are kind of trapped inside. We are experiencing more of an ice storm here in Texas.
Yeah.
So it's not like fun snow. It's very like
No.
icy and slippery.
Mm.
So I haven't really gotten to do a lot, but one thing that I did do today is while I was pulling myself together, I put on those like under eye patches
Yes.
and it was just nice. And I put them in the
Yep.
refrigerator. So they're like
Nice and
cooling.
cooling.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was just a little something that made my day
Yep.
just just kind of felt like a little treat, you know?
Yeah, I love that. And
So
isn't it funny because you feel so, like, not even extra, just, like, elevated. Whenever I put them on, I'm like, "Oh, I'm the epitome of skincare queen. I am health. I
yes.
am," like and my husband's like, "What do those do?" And I'm like, "I don't really know, but I feel good when I wear them." So, it's
Yes,
so
I
funny. I love it.
totally agree. I'm always like, I'm not really sure if this is making a difference, but like it
Yes.
feels good. So,
Mhm.
and all the kids are always like, what is on your eye? And they want to like touch it because it's like jelly, you know? But
My girls
yeah.
say, "Mommy, ow." Mommy, owie. Anything that's, like, on
Oh,
the skin, like Band-Aid stickers, whatever, doesn't matter what it is. Like, I had blood drawn the other day and at my doctor's appointment, and so they saw, like, the wrap, and they were like, "Ow, mommy, ow." And I'm like, "It's okay, like, it's okay." And then they're, like, looking at their own arm like, "Ow, ow." And so whenever I have them on, they do the same thing. They point to my eyes and they're like, "Ow, mommy, ow." And I'm like, "No, it's okay, honey. This is actually a good thing. You'll get there one day, trust me."
self care. That's so cute. I feel like it does look like a band aid. So
It does, to be
I
fair, it
totally
does.
get that. Okay, so tell us more about your twin girls and the pregnancy. Oh, you know what? One thing that I want to say. Okay, we connected through Evelyn, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
100%.
my mother-in-law is very good friends and used to be coworkers with Evelyn. They're all nurses.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
know Evelyn. I mean, I know you guys are close and friends, but through work.
Correct, yeah, so we met at work. We've been on the same unit together for going on 9 years, and she was, like, the rock star, just, like, higher, more experienced nurse when I started, loved to educate people. And she took me under her wing a couple years into my time there, and our friendship has just grown. She actually lives, like, down the street from me now, and so it's really nice. We see each other a lot more now. We used to
That's
before I went on ma
fun.
I know, before we went on maternity leave, we carpooled all the time, and so it just we would have these fun little coffee dates for, like, going to work and stuff like that. But, yeah, when I found out about, the girls, I don't wanna jump ahead too much, but I was 9 weeks when I found out about them, and that there was 2. We didn't find out the gender until they arrived, but I was so shocked, and I was just in such a state of, like, "Oh my goodness," and my PICU nurse brain was just on overdrive,
Scared.
like, panic yeah, and just, like, no and I floated to the NICU so many times, and I'm just like, "Okay, God, like, I don't know what this is gonna look like," and I'm ecstatic, but more than ecstatic, I'm fearful, and I don't wanna be fearful of this pregnancy and all these things, and I was just sharing that with her one day, and she was like, I really would think I should connect you with your mother-in-law's," she's like, "with Teresa's daughter-in-law," and I'm like, "Okay," and she always goes and hikes and does all these things with her, and we always talk about our different friend groups, so we know each other's friends. She's like, She just had twin boys, and she didn't have to have a C-section, and, like, all these things, they didn't even do NICU time," and I was like, "This sounds like a dream," and she's like, "So it is possible, I want you to know that, like, I want you to hear, like, good stories." And it's so funny, I literally was scrolling, like, 2 nights ago, I was looking back at our, like, very first messages because 'cause I'm like, "When did I message you?" And I'm like, "Kara, you messaged this poor mom, like, a month or 2 after you had the boys, like, you were in probably the thick of it, and I didn't even, like I think my brain was so, like, couldn't even focus, like, I was literally losing so much sleep that I was like, 'Yeah, you're right, I gotta reach out to this girl, like, I gotta know like, what do I have to do? Tell me exactly what teas you drank and how many jumping jacks you did, and, like, what is the algorithm for having these twins naturally and avoiding the NICU, all the things. And so I reached out to you and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, you were so kind to who have even responded because I think if someone had messaged me, like, that fresh after having twins, I would have been like or just a baby in general, but let alone twins, I'd have been like, "Who is this girl?" Like, she first of all, I don't know you from Adam, and you're reaching out to me through direct messages on Instagram asking me about, like, my birth, like, just so random, and I look back, I'm like, "You were so kind and so patient and so, like, understanding and willing to share." So I just wanted to tell you thank you for that because
Hmm.
that was, like, such a blessing to me, and I was, like, so again, like, you just gave me so much peace, and even though our stories are still very different, I was like, "Okay, like, this is possible, like, not every twin delivery has to have this, this, and this, not everyone has to have the same story." And so that just, like that truly was, like, one of the first things that grounded me in my pregnancy was just like, "Okay, Kara, like, you know what is true, you know what is good, you know, you have your faith, you have your family, you have your village, and you have this mom who's walked a very similar story as you, and you were you were like, "If you ever have any questions, just let me know," and I remember just, like, updating you throughout, like, the pregnancy and stuff, and you would always reach out, and I was like, "That was so kind of you to do," and you were, like, probably in the thick of it, you and your poor husband yourselves, and so I just wanted to tell you thank you because that was such a
Mm,
blessing and, like, really helped set the tone for my pregnancy and just, like, my mindset, and has really given me the opportunity to pour into other twin moms or moms of multiples who have reached out to me and asked me questions and being like, "You got this." And even just moms that are having singletons, like, all my friends that are in that first, pregnancy or first phase or freshly postpartum, and just the words to be able to say, because sometimes there are always words and words fail sometimes, but, like, just being able to be like, "You got this, mom." I'm like, "You did that." Like, you
mm.
whatever this birth story was, whatever however it worked out, like, you did that, and so, it was just really cool. So I just wanted to thank you for that. I know it was long, but I just wanted to tell you thank you so much. That was so sweet of you.
Well, that's so sweet. Thank you for saying all of that.
Of
And I just
course.
feel like I had people who did that to me too, and it was I don't know, I feel like you hold on to those experiences. I felt I mean, very similar, so excited when I found out I was pregnant with twins, and then also terrified. Like,
100%.
how was I gonna do this physically in a pregnancy? How was I gonna handle twin newborns and a toddler? I was so scared. So
Yeah.
connecting with other twin moms who had gone through that experience and just giving me the confidence and reminding me that everything is going to be okay. I just feel
Yeah.
like that connection and community for twin moms is so unbelievably important. And that's like a big reason why I wanted to start this podcast is
Yes.
I really I feel like what got me through those, like, early times was connecting with other twin moms. Well, it's nothing against my friends who have singletons, like,
Yeah.
they
No,
had great advice too, but it is
100%.
different, you
It is.
know?
And it can, like you said, like you've touched on some of your other episodes, like it can be very isolating and it can be very especially when things just didn't go the way that you thought they would or the way you wanted and or like breastfeeding didn't come as natural or whatever. Like and again, not that there's not those challenges for like moms of singletons too, but when you are pushed past that point of exhaustion, like any new mom, and then or freshly postpartum mom, and then coupled with influx of hormones and then coupled with your crying baby and then you're juggling not 1 but 2. And if they're not on the same schedule or they're not like you are just it's just a lot. It's a lot to do village or not. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
you could have the
Yeah.
biggest support system and it's still a lot of work. And so 100% like when you reached out to me and told me that you're doing this, I was like, "Yes, 100%. Yes." And it doesn't end at the postpartum or the pregnancy of the postpartum phase. It's throughout raising them, you know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
like because there's different challenges that are arising as they get older, and you're like
Right.
some phases you're like, "Oh my god, thank God we've made it out of that phase," and then you're like, "Holy Toledo, we're in a whole other we're in a whole other ball game now." But yeah, so I love that. When you said that, I was like, "Yes, that community," and again, it's not to, like, single out, like, singleton moms or moms that don't have multiples because I think there's so many good nuggets within this podcast that they can take away from too.
Sure.
And even just knowing how to like approach moms of multiples or like, there's always those funny memes and videos about like when you go out in public with your twins and things like that and things that people say and you're just like, oh my goodness, like you said that out loud. Like, did you think about
Mhm.
that before you said it?
Totally.
But I get it. And everybody just wants to relate. And I do think that like at the core of our being, like that's what people want is they want to
Yeah.
relate. And so I
Yeah.
just love that you're creating that community. That's so special.
Well, thanks, girl. You're so sweet. And it's so funny the timing because I think you found out you were pregnant in June of 2023, and that's when I had the boys. So
July. It was early July,
July.
I found out.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I had them
Mhm.
in June,
Yeah, you had just had them, and then I reached out to you, like, early August,
and I probably was
like,
like,
"You poor mom."
"Someone, yes, please talk to me. Like, I need,"
I
like, even
know.
when you're tired, you still need that connection, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Are your girls Modi twins?
They are, yep, they're Modi,
Okay.
and it said we found out about them at 9 weeks, And then I still wasn't able to get into my actual doctor's appointment. That was like an out-of-pocket ultrasound that we paid for at this cute little place down the street, from our house. It was like you could have this cute room and you can have all your family come in, and so we were
When
actually
you
coming.
found out it was twins?
Yes, that was not at the doctor's office. Yes,
Oh
it was yes.
my.
We were down in San Diego, and we had just seen a Morgan Wallen concert, and I was like, again, I'm like barely 9 weeks. So we get there, and it's my parents, my brother lives in Italy, so we FaceTimed him in, and my husband and my best friend. And we're laying there in this cute little room, there's these twinkle lights, and they throw it up on a big screen, and it's super sweet. And the ultrasound tech puts the probe in my belly, and she's like, "Look, there's the baby," and everyone's like, "Oh," and I am panicking because quick side note, when I found out, that I was pregnant, I had just come back from a Havasu trip for a friend's birthday, and I was doing anything but being sober that weekend, and so I was like, "Fantastic. I probably have a child with fetal alcohol syndrome, like, that's great," and I was legitimately again, this is where the PICU nurse brain really was a challenge for me, and so I was really panicking, and I was like, I just wanna hear a heartbeat, that's all I wanna hear." And, of course, I'm like, it's 9 weeks, I know there should be a heartbeat, kinda thing. And so she puts the probe on, and the heartbeat's, like, so quiet, and she's like, "Okay." She's like, "Well, baby's really small still, so I'm gonna try to get a better angle to see if we can, like, pick up the heartbeat better." And I'm like, "Okay, no problem." And I'm, like, quiet, my heart is just pounding because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, I heard it, but it was really quiet. Is that normal?" All the immediately, like, start thinking all those things. And so she kinda moves it around, and she's going up and down my belly, up and down my belly. And mind you, my best friend's recording all this, so she got it all on tape, which is amazing. And so she's up and down, and then she takes the probe off, and she puts it back on, and she takes it off, and she puts it back on, and she, like, goes up, and then she goes down, and very quietly, you hear my husband go, "Are there 2 in there?"
Oh
And
my
she's like,
god.
"There's 2 in there." And I was like, "Shut up." Like, immediately. Like Princess Diary, "Shut up." I was like, "No." No, and my dad was like, and it's so cute because, like, in the video that she recorded, I'll have to send it to you so you can watch it, like, she's recording my best friend's recording the TV, and my dad's standing there, and he just, like, turns around, and he's like, "Is she lying? Is she lying?" And my mom's like, "Wait, did you hear what she just said?" Because my brother's on the phone, and everyone's got having these, like, side conversations, and she's like, "No, look, there's 2, there's 1 and there's 2," and I was like, "No, you're lying." Like, no, like, I was just like, "No," and you see my face, my best friend pans to me, and my whole face is like panic, like pure panic, and she's like, "Yeah," and then she shows us the 2 different heartbeats, and they're audibly different, and in my mind, I'm like I remember thinking like, "No, one of those has gotta be mine, like, one of those has gotta be mine." She's like, "Yeah, so this one's 164 and this one's like whatever," and I'm like, "My pulse is probably like 164 right now, like, it's pretty high, I'm sure it's gotta be mine, like, maybe she's over an artery, I don't know." I'm not an ultrasound tech, like, I'm a nurse, but we stick to our lane, okay? And I'm
Sure.
like and I just remember my mom comes over and, like, shows me my brother on FaceTime, and we were supposed to go see him in the fall, and this is July, so we're thinking, like, September, October, and again, just speaking of just funny things that you say when you're, like, finding out in the moment, and I literally looked at him and I was like, "We can't go to Italy." Like, "We can't go to Italy. I'm a high-risk pregnancy." Like, it was just one of those things that just kinda came out, and we look back and we
Sure.
laugh because we were like, of all the things to say, you were like, "We can't go to Italy." I was so upset, but I wasn't upset, it was just like, you're just trying to process
Sure.
it,
Mhm.
and my sweet husband, he is always calm as a cucumber, he literally the chillest of like, it almost looks like he's not even excited in the video, but he's just smiling this big smile, like this closed smile, and he goes, "I'm not gonna lie," he told me after, he goes, "I'm not gonna lie, when she first put it on and there was only 1 baby, I was kinda bummed." And I was like, "What do you mean you were bummed? Like, what does that mean?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, your mom" my mom literally prayed them into existence, I'm not kidding you. Like, she wanted twins, prayed for twins, like, 100%, and she was so excited in the video, it's the cutest video, like I said, I'll have to send it to you, but he goes, "Yeah, I was kinda bummed because I really kinda thought, like, your mom's literally been praying for this for forever, like, I really thought we were gonna have him. So when I only saw 1, I was kinda bummed, but then she put the probe back on and I saw another one, and I was like, was everybody on board with this and I just, like, didn't get the memo or, like, what the heck?" And the funny thing is, like, she goes, "Do you have twins that run in your family?" And we were like, "Yeah, like, on both sides."
Hmm.
My father-in-law has twin cousins, mom has 2 sets of twin uncles, like, we have there's, fraternal, but there's still twins. And, they're always like, "Oh, it skips a generation, that would be us." And so, like, kinda one of those things, and so I was like I just was like, "No." way. And it was funny because I even told the ultrasound tech, I was like, there have been so many people, and this is, I'm not exaggerating, from the time I was like early college, 17, 18, 19, I've had random people. I went to school in Phoenix, Arizona, and I would be volunteering or doing different things. And people would be like, you would make such a cute twin mom. And I was like, who says that?
Such a random thing to say.
Is that not the weirdest thing? Like, not just like you'd be a cute mom. Like, I'd be like, oh, thanks, like one day, but like twin mom. And I'm not kidding you, Jess. Like, maybe 4 or 5 people in my lifetime before I got pregnant had said that to me. And it
Hmm.
was every time I was like, that's just not something you say to somebody. Like, what? Like just so weird. And I always talk about, I've done therapy and stuff like that over the years. And one of the things I've always really kind of prided myself on is I would tell my therapist, I feel like I'm a fairly emotionally intelligent person. I feel like I really try to be like in tune with other people's emotions and just like, whatever. And like to me, I'm like, okay, is this just like a lack of emotional or like I'm like, who says that? Like I just would be like so confused. And I wasn't ever like offended by it, but more just like I would never look at somebody and be like, you'd be a cute twin mom. Like you would. And I'm like, and I am a twin mom. So I'm like, I would never, even being a twin mom, I don't think I've ever looked at one person and been like, you would be a cute twin mom. So it was funny. So when that happened, it was insane. It was crazy.
It was always meant to be.
Meant to be, apparently. And some people knew that. So,
I feel like we had little nuggets along the way like that.
okay. Yeah. Like little, like, yes.
I think I shared this, and I don't know if this has aired yet. But so we had 2 things kind of happen like that. So me and David got married in Maui. It was a very small wedding, like 25 people.
Yes. Okay.
So
I
we
think I
did
remember you saying that.
Yeah, so we did a ring blessing. So people could like pass around the rings and like do a prayer or whatever. And David's uncle took the rings and went, "Twins." So
And
that
you're
was just
like,
random.
okay. Yeah.
And then when we were potty training Kaya, she had, like, a really hard time pooping in the potty. So when she
Hmm.
finally did, we're like, "You can pick out a big toy from Target." And she picked
Yeah.
out twin dolls.
That's right. I remember you saying that.
Isn't that
Yes.
wild? So, like, at the time, I
Bobbin.
was like,
Bobbin who?
Bob and Jasmine,
Bob and Jasmine. There we go. I'm like, I remember Bob.
the most random names ever. I
That
think
is
she was really
hysterical.
into Aladdin, and that's where Jasmine came
Hey,
from.
great
Not
princess.
quite sure where
Yes.
Bob came from. I don't know. I have no
I
idea.
love it. I love it.
But I was just thinking like, "Oh, she wants 2 dolls. What kid
Yeah.
wouldn't want
Right.
2?" But then looking back, I'm like, "Wow, yeah, like, I guess everybody knew."
I'm sure there has to be like little things that like are just put on the atmosphere, little God signs that you're just like, okay, yeah, like that's okay. It's looking back, it makes sense now. But
For
yeah,
sure.
I
Little
was like, I remember being like, I had to tell her that because I'm like, I remember people telling me that. And I was just like, again, who says that? It was always amazing to me. Even to this day, I'm like, yeah, it's funny. Like
It's like
thinking about it.
a very specific thing to say to somebody.
Very, very.
Yeah.
It's like if you saw somebody like, "You would be a great quad mom," and you're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
"What?" Like,
Like, please don't say
"Please don't
that.
say that." Yes, and I even said that a couple times. I'm like, "Oh, please don't say that." Like, like I just and again, I was so young too at the time, like I wasn't in like the baby wanting to have a baby phase of my life anyway, so it was one of those very
Sure.
like laugh it off things. So I think at that age too, I was like, that's weird for you to say anyways. Like I'm not married. I'm not even like at that phase in my life. And then
Mhm.
I remember looking back and being like, that is so weird. Like, what are the odds, And it's like,
For
were these
sure.
just like super people of wisdom or something? I'm like, did they know something that I didn't know? Like. But yeah, that was just kind of a fun little thing that I was like crazy. But yeah,
I
twin
love
mom
that.
life. Yeah.
Okay, and you guys announced your pregnancy in the cutest way ever.
Oh, thank you.
That was the cutest pregnancy announcement ever. Okay, so it was them, like, at In-N-Out with double doubles, and what did it
Yes.
say? Like, "We're meant."
So So it said it's the double life for us, and
So
my
cute.
husband, okay, to be fair, I have made him do quite a few photo shoots over the years. He's getting much better with it. And the first time I told him, I was like, I wanna do, it's obviously racking my brain. We knew right away we wanted to wait to find out the gender, so we were, well, and again, sorry, to backtrack. So we didn't know that they were Modi twins at first. When I went to my first appointment, I was 11 weeks. And they were like, "Okay, looks like they're monoди twins," which means that, they share a placenta, but they have their own basically, they have their own houses, but they're eating from the same refrigerator, and I'm like,
Ooh, that's a great analogy. I
"Yeah."
love that
I was
analogy.
like, "That breaks it down for me," and again, my nurse brain immediately gets on Google, 100%. Never the answer, right? Like, I know this, I know better, but I don't care. I'm at work one night, it's kind of a slow night, which my nurse friends would absolutely kill me for saying the S word. We don't say that word at work, but it's a pretty slow night, and I'm like, "All right, let me look this up, monodi twins," and immediately all the negative things come up, right? Like, all the risks, all the complications, and I am like, "Don't do it, don't click, don't click, don't click," and I'm clicking and I'm scrolling, and I'm like, "Okay, maybe," I'm like, "How did they know that, though? How did they determine that?" So then I'm looking up ultrasounds of Modite twins and, "Oh, there's 2 yolk sacs, and then there's one that disappeared," all these different things,
Mm,
and I'm like so then my doctor told me and it was kind of frustrating. I ended up being followed by maternal fetal medicine anyways, but my very first appointment, I just saw a general OB, and I told him, I said, "Hey, I paid for an out-of-pocket ultrasound at 9 weeks, so almost 3 weeks ago, and we have twins," and he was like, "Okay, well, we'll see." And it really, like, threw me off because I was
mm,
like, I feel like bedside manner first of all, you don't say that to a first-time mom or any mom. Like, if I'm coming to you and I'm telling you I have twins, I'm not just making that up. I would never
right,
just
right.
say that off of an inkling, and then if there's not 2 in there, that's devastating. So, like, if something's changed
Absolutely.
between, like, 9 and 11 weeks, could you not say, "Well, we'll see?" And I'm
Yeah.
sure people come in there and say all kinds of things, I'm sure. But I still like that I remember being like, "Okay, that's a point." Like, I don't like that, you know? But anyways, so he sees 2, he explains they're monodi twins, what that means, and he goes, "So they are identical." And I'm sitting there, my mom's with me at this appointment because my husband was working, and I was like, "Okay, so this isn't a genetic thing." And that's why I love
Mm,
the whole twin mom or the twin debate thing about, "Oh," and everybody always asks, "Do they run in their family?" I'm like, "Yes, they do, but these aren't that kind of twin." And it gets to a point where you just, like, don't even feel the need to explain it anymore because you're like, "I've done this too many times." But I've always just said, like, "Yes, we do have fraternal twins that run in our family. Our girls are identical, so this is just a God thing." Like,
mhm.
it's a egg that's split in 2. I'm not gonna get into the science of it with you at the grocery store while I'm checking out for my dinner groceries. I just say it's a God thing, you know? But obviously, I'm researching all of this, and I'm, like, going through it all, and, that's when, of course, I read about twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome, and immediately I was like, "This does not sound good." And being, a higher risk twin pregnancy because they were MODI, we were immediately referred to maternal fetal medicine, and pretty much for the most part, things were coasting. We were growing, and everything was, going smooth. I'm getting, like, almost twice weekly scans, and they had taken me off of work at about 18-ish weeks because they were like, "Okay, like, you need to go on a job accommodation, like, you can't lift more than this many pounds," whatever. And it was right around this new, federal law that came out called the Pregnancy Workers Act, and they actually have to accommodate you. Basically, like, they can't force you to go on leave, they have to be able to pay you and accommodate you. They can't, like, discriminate because you're pregnant.
Hmm.
And so because my unit doesn't can't accommodate those kinds of things, they were trying to find me a position. Well, they weren't able to, and I was starting to panic because 'cause I'm like, "We need to get paid, like, I need a paycheck." And so I make a last minute appointment. I was able to get in by the grace of God with a regular OB, not the MFM, and I'm, like, bawling, and I don't ever go into an appointment, like, emotional like that, but I was like, I just need to get paid, and we have bills to pay, and,
Hmm.
like, I don't wanna," and she's like, "You don't need to be dealing with this stress, like, you are
Oh.
carrying twins, and, like, let's just take you off work and backdate it." And I was like, "Thank you so much." And that
Oh.
day so I had officially gotten off work, and I was like, "Okay, that stress is done." And I don't know, California EDD in general, I think disability in general is a pain, but California is exceptionally difficult.
Hmm.
And anyways, that same day so I knew it was gonna be a process, long story short, to get it all processed and get paid, but I had a maternal fetal medicine appointment, and, that's when they found that the girls were in stage 1, or what they assumed was stage 1 of twin to twin. And they had told me the whole time, like, "We're looking at the fluid levels, we're making sure," and I remember them measuring, and every time they're like, "You're right there." And the doctor came in and he goes, "Honestly, your levels are borderline. Like, they are
Hmm.
borderline, but I would rather refer you to the surgeon just to be safe." And I remember
Oh,
thinking like,
yeah.
"Okay, God, like, okay, that's good." Like, he's being extra cautious. He would rather be safe than sorry. My hospital doesn't do they have a great, like, level 1 NICU, all the things, but they don't do the surgery. So they refer out to a surgeon in LA. And I like you were saying on your last, episode that your guest had to go I think it was, like, Seattle or Oregon,
Mhm.
somewhere up there up north.
Like a different state.
Yes. So thankfully, we had one in LA, which traffic-wise might as well be a different state, but, from where we are, but was very fortunate, and so they were like, "Yep, I'm gonna put in the referral now, they should be contacting you." They contacted me the same day, like,
Oh,
the
wow.
same day they contacted me, and they were like, "Okay, we have an opening at 7 AM on Monday morning for a consultation," and I'm like, "You want me to drive to L you want me to be in LA by 7 AM on a Monday?" I was like, "Have you been" and I this was such a humbling moment, and in a good way, it was humbling, but I was like, "Do you have anything later?" I'm talking to the nurse, and she that does all the scheduling for the surgeon. I'm like, "Do you have anything later in the day?" And she's like, unfortunately, no." And I was like, "It's just, like, the traffic at that time is really bad." And she's like, "Yeah, we have people flying in from Hawaii to come have a
Mm,
consultation." And she wasn't being rude, but she was kinda putting
sure,
it in perspective, like, there are a handful of surgeons in the world, and then let alone in our country, and so me being as close as we are to LA, in retrospect, was such a blessing, like, to not have to get on a plane or, like, fly across an ocean,
sure.
all those things. But so it was very humbling. It really kinda put, like, things into perspective for me, and I was like, "You're right, no problem, we'll be there," like, no questions asked. So, we're up at 3 AM, we're doing the whole thing, and my husband was still really new in his job at the time, and so he worked my mom and my aunt, who actually got certified to be my doula, um
That's so
came
cool.
with me. Yeah, the coolest, she's the best. And they both came with me, and we get to this appointment, and we're sitting there, and they break it down, and they're like, "Okay." And just from Friday to Monday, like, we had officially been, like, classified as stage 1, and they take us into this conference room, and they have this phenomenal presentation with all these stats and all these numbers, and they compare European surgeons to ours and their success rates and when they're willing to intervene. Went through all 4 stages, 4th being, fetal demise, and it just felt very like, "This is where we're at." He's like, "You're in stage 1. The least invasive thing to do would be to wait." He goes, "But I cannot guarantee better outcomes if we wait." He goes, "I My study shows that if we intervene in stage 1, you have an 89% chance that both twins will survive and a 98% chance that one twin will survive." And I was like, "Well, 89 and 98 look better than 75 and 78 that we were getting from these,
Right.
like, comparative studies." And I remember FaceTiming my or calling my husband in and putting him in a, this little conference call with all of us, and it got really quiet, and he was like, "It doesn't seem like there's really, like, an option, like, it just seems like this is what we need to do." And I think I just needed someone to, like, say that at the time. I was very like, "I can't make this decision." Like,
Mm,
there's a risk with doing it, and there's a risk with not, we could go into
right.
preterm labor. One of the baby's sacs was gonna be open for the rest of the remainder of the pregnancy. Um, there was just a risk for infection. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. They were, very upright with us about what could happen, but then the latter was we could also lose one of them either way, or both. And so a phenomenal surgeon, and we've visited him since, and his team, they're
I love
phenomenal
that.
people. Yes, and they have a family day every couple years, so we're gonna go this year. I'm so excited, where
That's
they,
the
like
sweetest thing I've ever
yeah,
heard. Oh
they do,
my
like, a little
gosh.
zoo day with all the babies that they've operated on, and it's like and they do spina bifida patients and stuff too, so really, really cool. But yeah, and I remember he looked at me and he was like, our surgeon, he was like, "I wish I knew you better, like, as a person, because if you were my family member, or you were someone that I cared about, I would tell you to do this," and he's like, "And I
Mm,
would never say that," and he's like, "We're gonna support you and your family regardless of what you choose, and we're gonna follow your case regardless, but I wish you knew me better as a person because, like, I would tell you to do this." And I remember being like, "Okay," and we prayed about it, and we made the decision, and they're like, "Okay, you'll be back in pre-op at 7 AM tomorrow morning." And I was like, "Oh, tomorrow? Like, this is
it's
happening
so
right
fast.
now." Yes. And I came home. We got home pretty late, and I was spiraling. I was like, "I have to get my toes done. I need a pedicure. I cannot go into surgery with jinky toes." And it was literally like 7 o'clock at night. Most nail shops are closed by then. I'm calling, I'm Googling, I'm like, and there's one place that closes at 7:30, and I call 'em like, "I'm coming right now. Can I get a pedicure?" And they're like, "Yeah, of course." the nicest ladies. I'm just crying in the chair. I am just, like,
Oh,
having my moment,
mama.
and they were like, "Okay." I said, "Yeah, I'm just I have a big day tomorrow, and I'm just nervous, but I wanted to make sure my toes were good." And I remember my mom and my husband were like, "You just need to, like, sleep, you need to relax, you have a big day." And I was like, "I need to get my toes done." Like, it was the one thing that I think I could control, and I was
Sure.
like, "I need to do this." And I was like, "And if I'm gonna go out, I'm not gonna go out without my toes done." Like, like, the most invasive surgery I'd had up until this point was LASIK eye surgery. I hadn't even had an IV yet, and I work per diem at, like, an IV hydration place. I didn't even let these girls poke me. I'm like, "No." Like, I have made it this far in life without until I need it, we're not doing it. And so, yeah, I got my toes done and I came home and I was, you take off all your jewelry and I feel like I'm a minimalist, but I realize I'm like, okay, I do have 3 piercings in each ear and I wear a lot of rings. And even though I never take off my bracelet, I have like permanent jewelry, stuff I never take off. So it just feels a part of me. I'm like, oh my God, I actually have a lot of jewelry. So I'm taking it all off and I'm like, I have this toe ring that I've had since I was 16 that my dad gave me. It's this pretty like sterling silver plumeria ring that I love. And I'm like rushed trying to get it off and it's stuck. And so I'm like leaning over my bathtub with my big old belly and I'm trying to like get it off and I'm using Dawn dish soap and it flies across the bathtub and down the drain. Now I'm crying even harder. I mean, we're just going like we are going through it.
Oh,
And my poor husband was just like trying his best to just like kind of be there but not be in my way. Cause it's almost like when you rage clean, right? You're just like
sure.
stomping around your house and you can't even function. And I was already big at this point because the fluid was so, like, offset, and I had so much extra amniotic fluid with one of the babies, with one of the girls. I was just so miserable, and I couldn't sleep, and I remember just sobbing all night long and praying, and I'm like, "Okay, God, if you just, like, let us get through this surgery, please, like, please," like and it was the first time that I really had to, like, fully surrender myself, like, my own body and theirs, and I just remember being like, "Okay, God, like, in my heart of hearts, I know that you gave them to me, but ultimately they are yours, and this is up to you. Like, I've done everything that I can do, and I'm just gonna trust that you have this and you have us, and it's gonna be okay." So we show up, I got puffy eyes, I'm, like, in pre-op, and it's just me and my husband, and I remember waiting, and it felt like we were waiting forever, and he was just tickling my arm and rubbing my head, and I was kinda going in and out of sleep, and the nurse comes in to do my IV, and I'm, like, the typical worst nurse patient. I'm like, "You can do it right here. Like, you could put it right here." She's like, "Okay," like, telling her where she's gonna do everything, like, telling her how to do her job. And, yeah, we go in, it's 45 it was took us 43 minutes from start to finish. I was awake. They do a whole, like, blue drape, just like a C-section, very
Hmm.
similar, and they strap your arms down, you get the catheter, and I remember thinking, like, "Okay, Carrie, if you have to have a C-section, this is a great dress rehearsal. Like, let's
Sure.
go into this, like, you're gonna have your arms strapped, you're gonna like, let's put yourself in that headspace," Like, again, a lot of therapy, a lot of, like, let's do some mental prep here. And did all that, they were like, "Okay," and I don't even know what they gave me. It's just light sedation, but it was enough to where you were, like, on the verge of falling asleep the whole time, but you weren't.
Hmm.
Like, that's what it felt like. And the worst part, honestly, was having your arms strapped down and they put the oxygen mask on you and you can't itch your face, so you're like,
Mm.
and I just remember, like, there's always this quote about, like, you may not remember their name, but you'll never forget how they made you feel, and, like, we always
Mm.
say that a lot in nursing. And this one nurse, she would just pull down the mask with, like, a warm washcloth and just, like, wipe my face when she could tell I was, like, getting itchy or uncomfortable, and then she would just put it back on, and I remember just being like, "You're a saint. Like, you are just an angel of a human being?" So, yeah, so with twin-to-twin transfusion, there is a donor and a recipient baby. And basically, like how she was explaining in your last episode, how one baby gets like all the nutrients. It's not just nutrients, they're actually getting the majority of the blood supply and the amniotic fluid supply as well. Because what's happening is the donor baby is basically shunting. So when they have one placenta, all the veins and arteries across the placenta surface, they're connected. And each baby, like if you picture the placenta and a cord on each side, just to give you a visual, they're almost like sharing fluid and nutrients and blood supply back and forth through the placenta. And so one baby, Elena, baby A, was shunting all of her fluid, all of her nutrients, all of her blood supply to Nina. And so she was, like, shrink wrapped, like, she barely had
Mm.
any space, like, if you looked in the ultrasound where they were measuring, like, they wanted to see, like, 2 centimeters of, like, amniotic fluid between, like, the baby's body and, like, the placenta like, the outside of the placenta, She didn't have that. It was literally like she was being, like, shrink wrapped. And
Oh,
then Nina
wow.
Nina had, like, a surplus, so she had, like, 3 or 4 centimeters around her, which would be fine for a singleton, you know what I mean? But because there's 2 in there and because they were Modi twins, you wanna see much better balance.
Mhm.
And then on top of that, Nina was also getting cardiomegaly, so her heart was getting like she was saying previously, her heart was getting enlarged and was being overworked. So that's also where a threat comes from the donor twin who's not getting enough nutrient, blood supply, and fluid, but then the other baby's also getting overworked. Their body's just, like, trying to flush out all these fluids, trying to process all these nutrients, and it's just really it's hard on both of them. It's really, really hard on both of them. And at that appointment prior to our surgery, they already said that they could see Nina's heart was enlarged. And so we were like, "Okay." So it was a no-brainer. So then the surgery, they said, "We're going to make a really small incision. We're gonna do topical lidocaine injections. We're gonna make a small incision about a centimeter wide, and we're gonna take a probe with a laser and a camera, and we're gonna puncture through your, uterine wall, your placenta, and we're going to, like, laser across the placenta surface, and we're gonna cauterize all the veins and arteries across the placenta surface so that they can no longer shunt blood and fluid back and forth. It's just they each kinda get their own side of the placenta."
So, is it kind of like creating 2 placentas out of 1?
In theory, yes, like, they're not
Okay.
cutting the placenta in half, they're
Sure.
just cauterizing all the, like, vessels across it so
Okay.
that they can't connect anymore, so then they each just get their own side. So
Mhm.
it's
That's
like
so cool.
yeah, so, like, you know how if, like, you see, like, the typical, like, picture of a placenta, it kinda looks like the tree of life, like, it has all those veins and arteries and, like, fans out like that? So they
Mhm.
each got, like, their side of the tree, if that makes sense. Like, if you split the trunk down the middle and kind of like that, and that's the one thing that I'm so bummed about with our like, because again, with twins, I don't feel like you always get to well, with any birth, but having a birth plan can kinda go out the window really quickly. And so I didn't write one down, and I remember telling my husband, like, "We should do this." He's like, "Babe, it's gonna go however it's gonna go, and it's gonna be okay." He's, always my calming, steady force, like, "You just need to relax," kinda thing. And I didn't write down that I would have loved for someone to have taken a picture of the placenta, because how often do you get to see that? Like, you can Google it, but and I just didn't. It wasn't the top of my priority list when I was pushing 2 babies out, and I'm so bummed because I feel like that would have been so cool to see. Um
Well, you have another chance, and you know what's funny is I wanted to have that experience with Kaya and see her placenta, and I forgot
Mhm.
to ask.
Yeah.
But
It
with
just
the
goes out the
boys,
window.
I wanted to ask, I have they're die twins, so I
Right.
got to see both placentas,
That's
and
so
they were
cool.
still encased,
That's
which she was
so cool.
super happy about because then, I have a blood clotting disorder and I'm
Right.
already like a clotting risk and a bleeding risk. So, like when they're encased in their sacks or
Yeah.
whatever, then there's no I don't know the medical terminology, maybe you can help me here. Like there's no possibility that there was like a piece of the placenta stuck in your uterus.
Right, right. Yeah, like,
Which
there's no yes, yes, because that can cause a whole other slew of problems. So you, like,
right.
know for sure that everything's there. Everything that was supposed to come out came out.
Right, and having 2
Yeah.
placentas, I was at a higher risk for,
Right.
like, something to be stuck.
Yeah,
So, my whole
100%.
point of saying that is with the next baby, you
I
can
know.
totally see the
I
placenta.
am. I'm writing it down. I'm like, "I wanna see it." But I think where I was, like, so bummed too, because I told my husband, I'm like, "But we would've been able to see it, like, cauterized." Like, you would have seen
Mm,
that, like, the marking of, like, the surgery. And that's where
right.
I was really, like I was kicking myself for the long it probably took me a solid year to get over it before I was like, "Kara, let it go." I'm like, "Could I call the hospital? Would they and my husband's like, "Kara, it's gone. It's in biohazard. Let it go." And I'm like, "You're right." But they did. I remember after they made the incision, and I remember my surgeon looked over the little blue tarp at me, and he was like, "Okay, this is it. Don't move." And I was like, "Where am I gonna go, doc? Like, where like, what?" You know? So I just remember holding my breath, and he's like, "You're gonna feel a lot of pressure, but it's not gonna hurt." And I'm like, "Okay." And it was this loudest popping puncture. I mean, it didn't hurt, but it was a lot of pressure, and it was loud. And he's like, "Okay, we're in." And he was able to see what he needed to see, and everything was going fine. And I'm kind of like, right at that twilight, like about to fall asleep. And it was weird when things would start to get a little bit more intense, like pressure-wise, I would almost kind of like make a little noise, and then I could feel the anesthesiologist giving me a little bit more of whatever they were
Mm,
giving me.
mhm.
And I was like, "Oh, okay. "Okay, we're good again," and it was very interesting. It must have been like a short acting whatever they were giving me, but it was just enough to keep me, like and I remember they're like, "There's just too many risks with anesthesia and the pregnancy, so you have to be awake, but we obviously don't want you to feel it. We want you to be as comfortable as possible, but the reality is this is not a comfortable procedure." So, bottom line is I knew that there could be some pain in it, but it was actually fairly pain-free, which is why I was so shocked when on your last episode, she was saying, like, prior to being diagnosed that she had a lot of pain, like, that she was
Mhm.
feeling a lot of and maybe it was just her body saying, like, "Hey, something's not right." Because my biggest thing is I was just big. Like, I was just big and really uncomfortable, and I realized now it was, like, that fluid shift, and they took a full liter of fluid out of Nina's, amniotic sac, and I was
Oh,
visibly
wow.
smaller after, and, like, my back was like, like,
I
I can
bet.
breathe. Oh, it was like night and day. I mean, I was still big, but it was like I just thought I was getting big because I had 2, you know what I mean? And it was my first pregnancy, so I had no idea that that was also part of the twin to twin, but it wasn't like again, round ligament pain, back pain, whatever, but it wasn't like it was like I thought something was wrong painful. Um, in the middle of the surgery, at one point, I remember the surgeon being like, "I need to go to the other side. I need to go to the other side." And he sounded, like, urgent, and I was like and I remember that kinda woke me up from my little, like, twilight, and I was like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Kara, I'm really sorry. I have to poke on the other side of your stomach." And I was like, "Okay, am I gonna tell you no?" Like, and he's like, "I'm just letting you know." And he's like, "Can I get an 18 gauge needle?" And he's like, "It's a small poke." And I'm like, "An 18 gauge needle is not a small poke, my guy. Like, I don't know what you're talking" but I didn't feel it. And anyways, he ended up taking a little bit of fluid from, Elena's side as well, baby A, and just a little bit because he needed, like, 1 for testing and then 2, like, I guess he needed, like, the angle of I don't know, I'm guessing just the angle of, like, the laser and everything. He needed to, uh get to the other side for some reason, and he said he did something called a Solomon approach. He's like, "Normally, I only do the main vessels across the placenta, but there was so many little ones that I ended up doing the whole thing." So I pretty much got
Mm.
every vein and artery that I could see and cauterized everything so that they really are separate, essentially.
Well, and
And
that's great
so
that he was so thorough.
very thorough, but I remember, like, hearing him like, the change of tone in his voice during the procedure and being like, "What does that mean? Like, what is" like, "What's going on?" And the next thing
Mhm.
I know, they're like, "Okay, we're done," like, "We're gonna take you to post-op and everything," and still a little, like, at it like, tired, and I remember my husband walked in, and he was like, "We're done, you did it," and I was like, "Okay, now what?" And so we were admitted for the night just for monitoring. The next day already, our ultrasound looked better. I remember my mom and my aunt got me my post-op meal was Chick-fil-A in true fashion because I wasn't allowed to eat past midnight, and when you're pregnant, especially with twins, like, that is torture. I'm like, I couldn't have anything to eat or drink. I thought I was gonna die. I was like, "I'm ravaging, like, I need to eat everything in sight." So I
Oh,
had a
yeah.
big old Chick-fil-A lunch and then
That sounds
had a
so good right
it was
now.
so I know, and it's Sunday. But yeah, so we spent the night. It was a rough night in the hospital just 'cause, comfort-wise. And one thing too that I don't think anybody prepared me for, and not to any, like, I don't blame the surgeon or anybody, but I'm curious about other moms that have had the procedure. The recovery was a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be, and they didn't really touch on
Oh,
that. They were
how
very
so?
like
Like pain?
yeah, and just they told me that, like so basically I wasn't actually put on bed rest. I was put on, like, 1 step above bed rest. So it was no bending, no squatting, no driving, no this. I could go to the bathroom, walk up and down my stairs because we live in a two-story condo, and I can shower and do, like, my daily living necessities, but that's pretty much it. And they did want me to, like, walk a little bit, but not a lot. So if I had to go to the grocery store,
Mm.
they wanted me to use the little, like, handicap electric yes, car yes, so I
Precious.
that was me, and, like, you wouldn't believe how, like, I had a whole new respect for people who have to use those because they don't plug them in or they don't get charged, and you're like,
Mm.
"I need to get groceries," you know? You're like, "I just need" and it was funny because my mom, she would take videos of me, we would laugh because my grandma rest in peace, when she had, COPD and emphysema before she passed, and she was on oxygen, and so she couldn't walk very far. So whenever we took her to the grocery store, she would be in one of those, and she's like, "You're giving hardcore Grandma Jenny vibes right now, like, you were just, like, mobbing and you're like" and I'm like, "Shut up, mom, like, I gotta go," like and it was just, ugh, the time and it was just such a hard time mentally and emotionally because I'm so active with just, like, on the go. I like to go see my friends. I like to shop. I like to do I'm not much of a homebody. I've become much more of a homebody. Um, but being kinda confined to what I could and couldn't do and having to rely on other people was really, really hard. And physically, probably took me almost 2 weeks post-op to actually start feeling normal again. And I
Mm.
think and again, I this the scar that I have literally looks like a little mole. Like, it is nothing. People are like, "Oh, if you wanted to, you could get it lasered." And I'm like, "Heck no, that's my battle scar." Like, that is my, like, I
Good
did
for
that
you.
scar. Yeah. And, and it's funny now that my belly's big and stretched out again, it looks like you can barely even see it again. But I think the biggest thing is that, like, because they puncture through your abdominal wall and your uterine wall, it's still a muscle. And
Mhm.
so my muscles were just contracting a lot. Like, they were just tense and, like, not, like, less, like, loosening up again. And so I got admitted a couple days after back at my hospital, because I was having contractions.
Hmm.
And they weren't painful at all, but they were just so tight and they wouldn't let up.
Mm.
And they were like, they contacted the surgeon and they're like, this can be normal because we just irritated the uterus. And, like, this might just be your normal. Just come in if you're fearful that you're in active labor. So I was like, okay, well, I've never been in active labor, so I don't know what that's like, but sure. And so yeah, I just the constant muscle spasms and contract, like I couldn't sit up. Like my poor husband, like he to this day I think feels a little guilty, but I had booked him a group side story. I had booked with a group of girls and all of his guy friends. All of us wives booked a surprise trip for them to go to Ireland. And it was a week-long trip, and they were gonna have a boys' trip, and they were leaving Halloween Day, and I had the surgery on October 24th. So a few days later, they were gonna be leaving, and he's like, "Well, I'm not going." And I'm like, "No, like, the surgery's done, everything's fine, I'm gonna stay at my parents' because they have a single story, like, you go." That my parents ended up flying my brother home from Italy because they were supposed to go visit him with the Italy trip that we were all supposed to go on.
Mm.
They had their
Mhm.
trip booked, but in light of the surgery, they canceled it, used the flight credit to book him a trip, brought him home. So I was like, "My brother's here, like, you go. Like, I promised you." And he was so like, "I feel like I shouldn't go." And I was like, "Please go, because this is probably the last time you're gonna ever get to have this trip, and so you need
Mhm.
to go. If you don't go, I'm gonna be upset, and it's just gonna make it worse?" So he goes reluctantly, but he goes, and he ended up having a really good time, and my parents took me to the beach and just I'm like, "Mom, it's gonna be too much to, like, roll my fat butt, like, all the way across the sand," and, like you know how you're just kind of feeling sorry for yourself? Like, you're just like, "I don't wanna be a burden, just leave me, just go." And they're like, "Nope, we're gonna get you to." They put me to my aunt brought a wheelchair over, they would wheel me everywhere,
Oh.
and I was not a light little delicate flower, okay? I was pushing, like, over 200 pounds, so I was a big girl. They took me everywhere, they did the most, they just got me out of the house, got me to smile, set me up. I was sleeping on the recliner in my parents' living room because that was, like, the most comfortable place. And my sweet mom, she's like, "I'm gonna sleep on the couch because if you have to get up and go to the bathroom, you're not gonna be able to get up to go by yourself," and just all of the thing. And my mom
Aw.
does not sleep good as it is, so I'm like, "This woman is a saint, truly." But all that to say, we got through that and, had a couple more admissions after that just because I thought at some points I was leaking amniotic fluid. They're like, "If you ever have any clear odorless fluid leaking, like, you need to come in, we need to swab you and make sure." Every time it was coast was clear, coast was clear. And then, my surgeon said, "If I can get you to 32 and a half weeks, our odds are, like, excellent." And I was like, "Okay, like, I'm manifesting 36 weeks." And I remember hitting, like, 28, 29 weeks and being like, "This is gonna be a week by week thing. Like, we are gonna
Mhm.
pray for each week." Yeah, so 32 and 4 is, 32 and 3, if you will, is Christmas Day. And Christmas Eve night, I had been admitted around every holiday, so it was, like, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and right before every
I'm
holiday, and
sorry,
then
girl.
I know, it was just, like, I got used to it. I'm like, we had the bag ready, it was just, like, the chapstick, the phone charger, the chonies, the pillows, they were all in the car. And it was hard because, like, my sweet mom and aunt, they were obviously helping me nest. They were having to do all of it because I couldn't. And it was so frustrating. I remember just sitting there being like, "Okay, don't break down," because 'cause I'm, like, pointing to, like, "Okay, this is where I want this, and this is where I want that," and just being like they were so patient with me, and I was just like, "I should be able to do this. I should be the one doing
Mm.
this?" So that's why this pregnancy has been, like, such a testimony and, like, such a restoration of things because I'm like, I'm getting to do it all now and how I want it. Sure, I may be making everyone around me crazy, but I feel so good. I'm like 80% of the way through and I'm like, yes, like I'm getting to do it the way I wanted to. But anyways, like I I remember, yeah, I had gotten discharged at 5 p.m. Christmas Eve, and we always do Christmas Eve at my in-laws' house, and my father-in-law makes pozole, and it's this whole thing, and it's wonderful. And I remember Josh gets me home, it's like 5:30, and I'm like, "I just need to shower, let me put on some different sweatpants, and we'll go." And at this point, I am wearing men's I'm a 7.5 women's, okay? I am wearing 10.5 men's slippers because my feet are so swollen. I am so monstrous, and I'm not exaggerating, like, I thought I was like, "No, I was doing pretty good at that time," and I look back at photos, I'm like, "You were just trying to have a positive mindset, which you go, mama," but, like, girlfriend was a tank. Like, I was large and in charge, swollen from head to toe. And so we get to my in-laws and they're like, just sit, we'll bring you your food, we'll bring you whatever." And I'm at that point where you can't even really eat that much anymore because you just don't have the space, but you're so hungry and you're like, "Oh, pozole is my favorite." And anyways, my father-in-law worked that day, so his sister-in-law actually made the pozole. Pozole is made with bay leaves, and most people remove bay leaves from their soups before you eat them
Mhm.
because they actually have a choking hazard.
Oh,
And
no.
yes, so my father, whom I love, standing in the kitchen at my in-laws' house, I'm sitting at their little, like, bistro table, and all of a sudden, he kinda starts, like, he kinda does a little cough thing,
Oh, no.
and then he looks at my mom, and I'm, like, watching him, and she takes him to the sink, and he's kinda coughing, and then I see him, like, do this, like, take me to the bathroom, so she takes him to the bathroom, and he is, like, full on choking. Like, he is kinda getting air, but what was happening is because bay leaves are so thin and sharp, it was, like, flapping over his, like,
Oh,
airway,
no.
so he couldn't take a breath in, but he could kinda get some out. Well, now he's coughing up blood. I mean, it is this whole thing. I am freaking out. I'm, like, calling 911. I am, like everyone's kind of like, "Okay," like, 911 shows up, and my dad is a lieutenant for our county sheriff's department, and they see the address, so naturally, they send some deputies because 'cause they're like, "This is your family's house, like, what is going on?" And my mom's like, "It's okay, like, he's breathing, he's just got something lodged." Kara kinda panicked, so we called 911, and I was like, "He's going to the hospital, like, he's going to the ER, and he's getting checked out." 'Cause he has sleep apnea, he sleeps with a CPAP machine, and I'm like, "He gets chronic bronchitis, like, this could inflame he could have a pneumonia," like, I'm like,
Mhm.
again, spiraling.
Nurse hat. Yeah.
And my mom's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go, honey, you stay here." And I was like, "I am a grown woman, and I'm going to the hospital." And she was like, "Okay." And I told my husband, I was like, "You stay here. This is your family's Christmas. I will be back." And I was just so, like and no one was gonna get in my way. And we
That's
go.
so intense.
Oh, and thank God it was our local it's actually the hospital I was born at, funny story, but one of my coworkers, she's my boss actually at my IV job. She was working in the ER that night, and I was texting, and I'm like, "Is anybody working?" And she's like, "Yep." She got us back on Christmas Eve within 30 minutes. They had him back there. She got him a room. I mean, she was, like, pulling strings left and right for us, and I get back there, and she's like, "Hey, your dad declined, like, the scope and everything that you wanted." And I'm like, "What do you mean he declined it?" And she's like, "Yeah, the doctor came back and he said he didn't need that." I was like, "Bring the doctor back." And the doctor comes back and I looked at my dad and he's breathing, but he's not breathing well, if you will, and he's still coughing a lot, and I'm like, "You're getting scoped. We are not leaving until I get a bronch and I see that your airways are cleared, like, you're not gonna die in the middle of the night." Signs the paper. Not his favorite experience, to say the least. So it was intense. Long story short, he was okay, thank the good Lord, and we have a lot of jokes about bay leaves now, um, to the point where for his 60th birthday this last year, we did a surprise party, and we actually dressed the girls up as bay leaves. It was a whole, like, joke. Yeah, there's been a lot of jokes
I
since.
need that picture. I need
Yes,
that
I
picture.
will
That's
send it
so
to you.
funny.
But long story short, that's kind of the joke and not joke, that's kind of what sent me into labor. So, Christmas night, we've now had a very mellow day. My mom makes this wonderful breakfast for dinner. My husband's favorite food is French toast. He's napping on the couch. I'm sitting at the table. I'm so hungry, and I have to go to the bathroom. I have to pee so bad. And I'm like, gosh, it's such a journey just to get to the bathroom and pull my pants down and go to the bathroom at this point. But I'm like, "Okay." And I remember we were watching Beverly Hills Cop on the TV, and I remember my mom had just set my husband's plate down on a little, like, dinner TV tray, and I stand up, and my water breaks all over the kitchen floor. And they're still looking at the TV, and I'm like, "My water just broke." And they were like, "What?" And all 3 of them look at me, and my mom's like, "Shut up." And my dad's like, "Really?" And my husband's like, "Right now?" And I was like, "Why would I lie about that?" And then they were like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, am I
Why
sure?
is that the follow-up question?
Like, I'm wearing light gray men's sweatpants. Like, yes, I'm sure. I remember telling my husband because my parents have tile, and I was like, they have a big living room rug, and I was like, move the rug so I don't like leak walking to the bathroom. So he pulls the rug back, and I go in. I get to the bathroom, I go pee, and I'm like, "That's pee." And he's, like, standing there in the bathroom with me, he's like, "Okay," and then I remember I stood up to, like, let me peel these wet sweatpants off and everything, and my poor mom and dad are just, like, running. I just remember them running back and down through the hallway, like, I don't know what they were grabbing or what they were doing, but my
Panic.
mom yeah, literally. My mom has a minivan. I was like, "Mom, go in the back of my car. There's puppy pads back there. Get 'em and just put them all over the van." And her van was, like, the lowest and easiest for me to get in and out of at that time. So I was like, "Put them down everywhere." So she's doing that, and everyone, like, springs in action. They're like, "Okay, this is happening, like, we're doing this." And so she comes and brings me new pants, and so my poor dad's sweatpants, because like, I didn't have anything, and I looked down in the toilet, and there was a lot of blood, and I was, like,
Hmm.
not anticipating that, and you can have a lot of bloody show when your water breaks in general, but I lost everything at once. Water broke, I lost my mucus plug, like, everything was at one time, and it was mixed. It wasn't, like, bright again, nursing terms were like, "Well, is it bright frank blood or is it, like, old? Is it darker?" Because that's the concern for an active bleed versus not. And so I was like, "Okay, well, it looks very mixed. It looks like it's mixed with the amniotic fluid. It doesn't look like it's, like, I'm actively bleeding," but I just wasn't anticipating that, and so that
Mhm.
really freaked me out, and I'm like, "Okay," so
That's like I think that's a good thing to talk about and, like,
yeah,
for moms to know because I had that with Kaya,
yeah,
and I was scared because I had
yeah,
had losses before her. I
yes,
wasn't expecting I knew there would be blood in labor. I
right,
didn't expect
right.
there would be blood when my water broke.
Correct. So many people don't have their water break spontaneously or at home. It happens at the
Mhm.
hospital or they break your water. So this is my first rodeo. I'm like, I have no and it's already not a normal rodeo. So I'm like, I don't
Mhm.
know what to expect. And yeah, like I was not anticipating there to be blood. And so that kind of freaked me out. So my husband, again, everyone's so kind. Like I look back and everyone was just a trooper. They're like cleaning up after me. I'm like, this is a disaster. I, like, pull a puppy pad around myself like a sumo diaper, and I, like, throw on underwear, and I'm, like, trying to throw on whatever I can in some sweats, and I get in the car, and we get going, and thankfully, it was Christmas night, it was a Monday, and so there wasn't any traffic because 'cause we're about 25, 30 minutes from our hospital, and we get in the car, and I immediately call the OB triage nurse, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm 32 and 4 with mono-day twins. We had a fetal abrasion surgery at 23 weeks. My water just broke at home. I'm on my way to the hospital. I just need to know I did have some blood in my amniotic fluid. It's not bright frank blood. It looks like it's pretty serosanguinous, meaning it's like mixed with like the fluid. I just need to
I love
know."
all the,
I know
like,
all
nurse
the terms. I
terminology. I
know
love
that's
it.
and like it was so funny because I was like, it's not frank, but I just need to know, like, do I need to go to divert to my local ER or am I
Mm.
okay to try to come in? And she goes, "Well, are you having contractions?" I said, "I am, but they're not strong and they're not consistent." And she's like, "Okay, if you think you can make it, just come in. But if for any reason that changes in the time, like divert to the nearest ER."
Hmm.
Which I'm like, "Okay, solid advice." And I did. I felt like we were okay. I just again, I'm a nurse, but I'm a peds nurse. I'm not a labor and delivery or OB nurse. And so I'm like, there's limitations on what we like to stick in our lane. And
Well,
so
sure, and when it's happening to you, I feel like sometimes it's really hard to have, like, that medical hat on when you're, like,
yes.
a little that's
Shaken
very
up.
personal. Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
yes. So we get there and I still have a picture. I think I just got to send you like an album of like timeline photos and things and videos, but I have this picture of like my husband, he pulls right up and he goes to get a wheelchair and I get in the wheelchair and you just see like all the chucks and puppy pads in my mom's front seat. And I remember just taking a quick picture of it with my phone because I'm gonna be like, this is gonna be something we laugh about later. Like this is gonna be something we laugh about later. And trying to be really like present, but also like, I want to remember this. And so we get up there, they get me all checked in, they're like, "Yep, your water did in fact break," and I'm like, "Thank you,
Told
because they
ya.
have to test you." I know, and you're just like again, even being a first-time mom, I'm like, I coulda told you that. I'm going to the bathroom every 20 minutes, and it's just coming out, like,
Mhm,
literally. So we get in there, they put me in a L&D room, and you know how the monitors are. You know how they are with 1 baby, you know how even harder they are with 2, and
mhm.
they are moving. They are just anything but still. And so trying to get them both on took a solid hour. My best friends are driving, my mother-in-law is coming, everybody's coming to the hospital. My aunt always hosts Christmas dinner at her house, so she's like, "Gotta go, guys, sorry." Like, she's like, "That's my call, my doula." So she hops in the car and everyone shows up, and of course, it's flu season, so only, like, a couple people could come in at a time, but they did let them, like, alternate in and out, and I cannot remember for the life of me the name of the med that they gave me. It was a pill, though, to try to stop my contractions, and
To stop your contraction.
yes, yes.
Okay, so they wanted you to be
They did not want me to go into, like, active transitional labor.
well, and one thing that I wanna get into too, or maybe you'll talk about this. So
Mhm.
when was the decision made that you could try to have a vaginal delivery? Because I feel like a lot of doctors are more open if you have die, but I don't know if I've
Yes.
heard of a Mo-Di mom having them vaginally, so I'm, like, super intrigued by that.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that because that remember when I said that very first doctor I saw that was like, "Well, if like, we'll see if the twins are there." That was one of the
Mhm.
questions my mom asked. She's like, "Hey, at what point do you think she would deliver? We need to go off of work because no well, I didn't have twins, so I don't know how this works. What's the timeline?" And he's like, "Well, I would like to deliver them at 36 weeks, no later." And just for, like, safety reasons and stuff. Well, when he's saying that, in my mind, I'm like, "Well, that's a scheduled delivery then. That means you're either inducing me or you're gonna take them via C-section." And already, again, that was a lot of that loss of control feeling of like, "Okay,
Mhm.
so I don't even have a say." And I don't know if there was, like, one direct turning point when they decided that that would be okay. A lot of my, MFM doctors, because they have, like, a team, so I would see a couple different ones. They basically would say, like, "As long as babies are both staying head down, we should be in a optimal we should be able to try to push."
So was that a requirement, is that both had to be head down?
They did. Well,
Okay.
gosh, now that you
Or at
say that, I
least
think at least one. One had
yes.
to stay head down, and if they could maneuver if the other baby flipped or they were able to maneuver the other baby head down, then we could. But they were like, at any point, if they're, like, transverse or they're breech, like, that's the odds are a lot less likely. But I
Hmm,
will say they were fairly supportive of me at least trying, if
that's great.
position and everything. So I will say that was a huge blessing because I do know a lot of doctors and OBs are like, "No, like, this is the
Mhm.
plan." And again, I know they're doing what they think is best and what's safest, but I remember that being, like, one of my biggest things was, like, I really, really wanna try to have a vaginal delivery. And so, when I get there and they're telling me that they're giving me these meds to stop my contractions. And at this point, I'm having them like every 5 to 7 minutes, and they were enough to where I had to like kind of breathe through them, but they were not unbearable by any means. And I remember being like, the OB's like, "Yeah, so we're gonna give you the," I think it was nifedipine, but that's a blood pressure medication. So I don't know why that's coming to my mind. But
Hmm.
they were like, "We're gonna try to stop your contractions." And I was like, "So we're not having these babies?" Like, I was like, "Don't get me wrong, after midnight is great because I'd like to not have Christmas babies if I could avoid it. But like, I don't understand. I thought I only had, like, a window, like, I think we
Right.
generally as moms hear, like, 24 hours from the time your water breaks that you have to deliver, and they were like, "That's actually not true." And I was like, "Enlighten me because I don't know anything about," again, not an OB nurse, and, they're like, "Nope, as long as you're not showing signs of infection
Mhm.
and,
Okay.
you and babies are both, they're gonna stay on the monitor, you're gonna be on bed rest." But we have had a mom here for 38 days with her water broke, and
Oh,
we're
no
just
way.
38 days, and they're like, "We're just trying to let her, like, baby bake as long as possible," and I'm sitting here, like, trying to process this, and I'm like, "Okay, my life has already been on limitation mode for, like, the last, like, month and a half, and now you're telling me that I'm gonna be stuck to this bed for 8 weeks?" Like,
Well, and it's like, at the end, you just want to be done.
you just wanna be like, "Okay, we're here, this is happening." At this point, so my delivery was my 4th admission during the pregnancy, and at each prior admission, I had already gotten a round of steroid shots with each admission for their lung development. So which, oh my gosh, those things, oh, I was not prepared for the burning. Like,
Oh, really?
did you not have steroid shots with the boys?
I didn't. So that was, like, a
Okay.
discussion every appointment, and
Yes.
then once I made it to 36, I think she was like, "Okay, now you should be good," and then I had them at 37 weeks.
Right. So,
So
okay, so you were good. That's right, yeah, because you were
mhm.
full term. And it's not even the needle, it's the actual, like, liquid, it's the actual, like,
Mm.
steroid. And she told me, she's like, "It's gonna burn, but it's short, but it's intense, but it's short, but it's intense." And I was like, "Okay," you know? She wasn't joking. I was like, "Oh, yes, fire, a lot of fire." And then, like, an hour later, you would move, and it would be so sore, and you were just like, "Okay." And I remember being
Mm.
like, "This is okay. This is okay, babe. It's better. you're not even to labor yet. Like, and I think that was my mindset. It had to be like that the whole time. Like, I knew these things were happening, but I knew for my own mental health and my own ability to do this pregnancy and deliver these babies if I wanted to have them vaginally was I had to keep that mindset. Like, nothing could seem like it was too bad. And yes, the surgery was kind of a setback. Yes, I kind of took a little dive mentally there and emotionally, understandably so. But I had to keep that mindset of like, you have to keep them in as long as you can. Like, whatever you have to do to get there, you're gonna do. And it doesn't matter if you're uncomfortable, and it doesn't matter if you're bored, or it doesn't matter if, like, it's not about you, you know? And in the best way possible, that kept me really motivated. And so, yeah, now I'm in L&D, and they're telling me, "You're gonna try to stop these contractions." And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, we're here. My body is doing this thing. Like, we're, like, is this
Mhm.
not happening?" They monitored me all night. I did not get a single ounce of sleep. And the next morning, they're like, "Great news, you're not going into active labor, so we're just gonna keep you here and monitor you." They started me on prophylactic antibiotics. I was obviously on, IV fluids just to keep me hydrated because 'cause they're like, "Your body will continue to make amniotic fluid. It's not gonna hold it in, but it's gonna
Mm.
continue to make it. So the babies will be okay. They're still attached to the placenta and their cords and everything, so they're getting blood and nutrients and all that jazz, like, we're just gonna monitor them and you." And I was like, "For how long?" They were like, "Until they get here." And I was just like, the mental shift, I think that's also why I didn't sleep on top of just everything happening, is I was like, "How long is this gonna be going on? What does this look like for us?" And again, it's just another shift that I had to try to, like, adjust to, and I'm trying to stay
Mhm.
positive, and I'm trying to be like, "Okay, Kara, like, they're doing what they can to keep these babies in and bake as long as possible. So, like, you have to get on board. Oh, well, you're gonna be living at the hospital. Thankfully, you have people willing to bring you good food, better food, and, cozy slippers and things." And so I get over there and send everybody home. Everyone stayed all night long in the cafeteria. I finally send my parents home. They're, like, super nervous to leave. I'm like, "Just go. You guys have to get some sleep because if anything happens later, like, I want you rested." So they just are getting home. My dad's getting in the shower. Everyone's calming down. My aunt's getting ready to leave. And I start having more strong contractions. I'm like, "Ooh, those ones are kinda hurting." So they call the nurse and she's like, "I'm gonna give you another dose of that, like, the med." And I'm like, "Okay." And again, I can't remember, but it was a pill, which I thought was weird because 'cause I'm like, "If you're trying to stop contractions, wouldn't you give me something, like, intravenously or a shot or
Like a
something that
pill
would
that
be."
you take
Yeah,
orally?
like an oral
Okay.
pill. So I'm like, again, I know there's certain medications work faster, slower, whatever, but I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, "Wouldn't you be trying to give me something different?" Again, I'm not an OB, I'm not an
Right.
L&D nurse, I don't know. So whatever, she gives me an extra dose. So it's like a scheduled every 6-hour dose, but this one was like, "I'm gonna give you an extra one in between." It's like a
Mm.
PRN medication or an as needed medication. So she gives me that one. 20 minutes later, again, I don't know how fast it's supposed to work, but it's not working. And at this point, my husband and my aunt have started timing them. And my aunt got me these little, like, spiky labor ball things. Okay, so she's giving me those, and I am, like, white knuckling it already, and this is, like,
Mm.
20 minutes. And at one point, I just, like, chuck them across the room. I'm like, "These are not working." And I just, like, throw them, and I am like, I'm getting hot, and I'm like, "You need to call the nurse
Oh,
back,
you're
like,
like
something's not right."
you're in
Yes,
labor.
yes, but I didn't know, I don't know this because they just told me I'm not having these babies today, so, like, whatever. And I remember my surgeon was like, "Absolutely 0 cervical checks unless you are, like, in water-broken active labor," because, like, the
Mm.
risk of infection is really high, even though it's sterile, really high. And they did do a cervical check when I was admitted before, like, on Christmas Eve when I got discharged because they were like, "Hey, when we did your swab to check if you were leaking amniotic fluid, we saw that you were, like, 80% effaced. Do you wanna consent for
Mm.
a cervical check?" And I was like, I mean, my surgeon told me I'm not supposed to do that, but so this also could have been what might have thrown me into labor, but I honestly think it was gonna happen either way. So I did consent to a cervical check, which was extremely painful. I was not anticipating that. And they were like, "Yeah, you are 1.5 centimeters dilated." And that was on Christmas Eve. And so now we're on like the 26th. We're now like 48 hours almost past that. And when I got admitted on Christmas night, I was still 1.5 centimeters. And at this point, my water's broken. So I'm like, "Yeah, you can check whatever." So now we're, like, getting to these really intense contractions, and I was doing the whole, like, holding ice in your hands, like, leading up to,
Mm.
trying to, like, mentally prepare for these contractions, and at one point, I remember being like, "These are longer than 90 seconds." Like,
Mm.
I just see my aunt and my husband look at each other, and they go to get the nurse again, and they're like, "Hey, her contractions are only 30 seconds apart, and they're, like, 2 minutes long." and I was panicking. I was like, "Something is not right." Like, you know, when you just, like, can't catch your breath and they're coming so fast and so hard. At this point, I'm like, I'm ripping my gown off. I am
Mm.
like, we're like what you would assume is transitional labor. And the nurse comes back in and they're trying to do handoff. They're trying to do shift report. So I can tell she's kinda irritated. And she comes in and she checks and she's like, "I just checked you. You were a 3." And I'm like, "You need to check again." Like, they need to like, something and at this point, like, I'm not forming words. My aunt's like, "I really think we should check again," and trying to advocate for me. I was a 7.5.
Oh my
And it
god.
was within, like, less than 30 minutes. And I am, like, panicking. And they called the
Are you
doctor
sure
in.
that she didn't give you Pitocin?
No, no, I know, right? You would think. And the doctor comes in and double checks. She goes, "Oh, yeah, we're actually at about an 8 now." And I was like, "Call the anesthesiologist." Like, I was literally like and I remember looking at my husband and I was crying and I was like, "I have to get the epidural. I have to get the epidural because I have not slept and I don't know what it's like to push out 1 baby, let alone 2 babies, and I have to sleep or I can't do this." And he's like, Okay, like, I don't know why you're upset. Like, I thought that was part of the plan." I was like, "But I wanted to try without and I wanted to do," and he was like, "Okay, babe, but, like, remember what I told you? Like, we gotta roll with the punches. Like, whatever we gotta do, we're gonna do." And I'm like, "Okay." And then insert Joey. She was my L&D nurse that day. She comes in, day shift, bright-eyed and chippered, and with a wheelchair. And I'm like, "What?" The words I'm gonna PG it down, but I was like, "What the heck is that for?" And she was like, "Well, you wanna have these babies naturally, right? Like, vaginally?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Okay, mama, you gotta get up and get in this chair." And I looked at my husband and I was like, "Is she for real? Like, does she actually think I'm getting up and in that wheelchair?" And I looked at her, and again, I'm using cleaner words, but I was like, "If I stand up, I'm gonna poop on this floor." And she was like, "No, you won't." And I said, "Oh, no, I promise you, if I stand up right now, I am going to poop on this floor." And she's like, "You won't, I promise." And I was like, "This girl's insane. Like, she's actually clinically nuts. Like, you think I can't even get my pelvis is separating. Like, what is wrong with you?" She gets me up all 200. I stopped looking at the scale at 220, okay? Like, that was, like, a week and a half prior at an appointment. She gets me up. She gets me in this wheelchair. I am contracting. I'm barely just, like I'm focusing on my breathing and just trying to, like, not panic. And I remember her wheeling me down the hallway, and I am like, like you have a pole going up you is kind of what it feels like. I look over at the nurses station, and they're all just looking at me like, "Oof, like, been there, girl. Like, you got this," kinda thing. And then I get in there, and the L&D bed is so high, and I'm 5'8", but, like, I can't climb to get up there, so they're, like, giving me a stool and all this stuff, and then next thing they kick everybody out, anesthesia comes in, I'm like, "Okay, like, good thing you caught us before our first case," and I'm like, "Ha, ha, ha, like, give me the drugs," like, "It's time." Kick my husband out, my mom's already back at this point, she's, like, all upset because she's like, "I knew it, like, I knew as soon as you guys sent me home, like, something was gonna happen," and they called and they were like, "You need to, like, get back here, like, ASAP." And so, um I was sitting there and she's like, "Okay, babe, we gotta get you in a 90-degree angle." And I'm like, "I can't. Like, I just can't. You're gonna have to do it. All 200 and however much pounds of me, you're going to have to physically pull me up." So they do. They get me in a 90-degree. And again, when your hips feel like they're just like, it is a position to be in, right? And she gets me in position and I'm silent now because I'm like, just trying to focus on breathing because I'm like, they're coming so fast and so hard. And she's looking at me and sweet Joey, I'll never forget her. I would just look at her when I was gonna have a contraction, and at one point, I, like, looked at her and she's like, "Okay, we're coming up on another contraction." And I remember panicking because I was counting the seconds in between, and I was only getting to
Mm.
26 seconds. Like and I was
Oh
like,
my
"No
gosh.
anesthesiologist is gonna get that needle where it needs to be in 26 seconds. Like, they're just not gonna do it. Like, I don't care how experienced you are." And again, this is where being a nurse was, like, not helping. And I look at her and she's like, "Okay, we're coming up on another one." And he's like, "I'm done. I'm done. It's done." And I was like, I didn't even feel anything. Like, I literally did not even feel anything, not the lidocaine, nothing. And I was like, "No, like, there's no way." Contraction hits. He was the fellow, physician, so his attending comes in to check my dressing, and she kinda I don't know, she must have just, like, tugged a little bit on the dressing, and I was like, "Don't touch me!" Like, "Don't touch me!" And she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Just please don't touch me." And my nurse was like, "Hey, let's just, like, not let's just give her a minute, you know?" They lay me back down in less than 2 minutes. The sweetest,
Mm.
most peaceful blissful, warm feeling just, like, came over me, and I was like, "Oh," like, the breath was so it was so good, and they, like I remember my mom and my husband poke around the corner, and they're, like, looking at me from the and they're like, "Is it safe to come in?" And I'm like, "Come on in, like, hi, like, how's everybody?" Like, "Who's here?" Like, literally, like, night and day.
A different person.
Yes, and they're like, "You can have clears, but you can't have anything, like, solid." So I'm like, Jello, popsicle, what Gatorade, anything because I was so parched. So I'm like, I get all the things, they bring it up to me. My mom braids my hair, she starts tickling my arm. She goes, "And at one point, you just went so limp." She's like, "I literally thought you stopped breathing because you were just, like, out." Took the most glorious nap of my life, probably the last solid sleep I'll ever get. And I woke up probably around, like it was like 4 no, it was like 3:34 at this point in the afternoon, and the nurse comes in and she's like, "Can I do a check?" I said, "Sure." She checks me, she goes, "You're a 10." And I'm like, "Okay, great." And she's like, "I'm gonna go have my lunch, and then we're gonna go to the OR, and we're gonna push, and we're gonna have these babies." And I'm like, "Sounds like a plan, girlfriend. You go enjoy your break, okay?" And so she goes to eat, we rebraid my hair, I'm like, put my chapstick on, my deodorant, I'm like, "All right, let's do this." And so we got into the OR around, like, 5, just a little after 5, and, same thing, my husband's, like, suiting up in his bunny suit. Poor guy has been in the same sweatpants for, like, 2 days at this point, and he looks almost as rough as I do. And we, like, say our prayer, and we go in there, and they let my mom and my aunt stay, like, in my L&D room, but I'm the first OR right across the hallway, so, like, we try to keep you
Okay.
nice and close, and they're like, "But you do have to push in the OR, like, we have to be in there in case of emergency."
I feel like that's so typical.
Yes,
I
and
had
you're like,
to
"Okay,
also.
if they're at least gonna let us push, better than nothing," right? Like, better to
Right.
be in the OR than not being allowed to push at all. So we get in there and she's like, "Okay, we're gonna start." And they push me over to the OR table and I'm like, "Oh, this is not comfortable. Like this, how am I supposed to do this on this cold hard table? Like this is just," and I'm like, feel like I'm spilling off of the table. Like it just feels so small and sterile, right? And it's again, I'm like, "Okay, Kara, this is what you have to," again, trying to get into that mindset. I'm like, you gotta do what you gotta do. Like this is not the L&D beds are comfortable by any means, but an OR table is a lot different.
I'm trying to remember. I mean, I'm sure I had to do the same thing,
Yeah.
but I can't
They might have
remember
let
that.
you wheeled you in a bed and let you push in your bed in the OR. They might have done that.
I remember I was wheeled in my bed because at that point, I was so unbelievably sick from the epidural. Like,
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know if you've had an experience. I didn't have this with Kaya, but
Mhm.
I had the shakes with Kaya, but
Yeah.
the shakes I had with this epidural were another level, and I
Okay.
was so nauseous. I
Yeah.
like,
No, I didn't
I
have that. I got a little shaky towards the end, but I wasn't nauseous. And that's the thing, like, again, total God thing, I didn't get nauseous throughout my entire pregnancies, which is crazy, I know.
lucky.
I know. So, like, I think God just knows, like, I don't do well being nauseous. I'm very much my mother's daughter in that sense. Like, we are incapacitated if we are nauseous. And so I think I was like, "Okay, let's just give you one little break, and that's where it's gonna be." And so, no, I wasn't. I wasn't nauseous at all with the epidural, but we get in there, they transfer me from my bed to the OR table, and obviously your legs are super heavy, right? Like, you can't there's not a whole lot of movement on your end. And they're like, "Okay, Kara, so look at the monitor, and when you see the contraction, because you know what the contraction looks like, that's when we're gonna practice pushing." And I can't feel anything. Like, I cannot feel a contraction. I'm like, This isn't working." So, like, "Okay, let's go ahead and start some low dose Pitocin, and so you can start feeling your contractions a little bit more and make them a little stronger." So they do. Can't feel it, can't feel it. It's like 30 minutes. They're like, "Okay, let's ramp it up." Then they got it to a point where they were stacking again, and I was feeling them, and I was like,
Mm.
"I need a break, like, I need a break." So it took us a solid almost hour to find that balance of the right dose of Pitocin for me to feel the contractions, but for them to not stack on top of each other, and then to be able to, like, learn how to push. And then again, sweet Joy comes in, she's like, "Let's do tug of war." So she, like, rolls up a towel, and she puts it between my legs, and she's like, "When it's time to push, you're gonna pull up on this towel, and I'm gonna," and she's like and
Mm.
she's a little thing. She's, like, got her whole body on it, and she's like, "And that's the kind of, like, force I want you to push with." And it really helped me figure out that, like, motion. And so we did. We started that, and I'm getting discouraged, and she's like, "You know what? What's your favorite Let's put some of your jams on. Like, let's put a good song on." And I'm like at this point, I'm like, I don't even like, what do you even put on at this point? And I was like, "You know what?" And I looked at my husband, I was like, "Just play the Cranberries." Like, I wanna hear the Cranberries.
Aw.
And I love the Cranberries. It was, like, my dad and I's band growing up, and so they play that, and I'm like, "Okay." Now I'm starting to get, like, motivated. I'm like, "Okay, like, all right, like, I'm feeling it. Let's do this. Pushing, 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 probably for like another half an hour, not really feeling anything. And again, not to be too TMI, but because the girls never dropped, I never really had that stretching or expanding or anything. And so my doctor was like really in there trying to like help kind
Hmm.
of like loosen things up and stretch. And I remember being like, this is so uncomfortable. And I remember looking at my husband and being like, even with the epidural, being like, if she could just get her hands out of me, I could do this. And he's like, as if she's not right there in between my legs. And he's like, well, babe, I think she's just trying to help, like expand things. And I'm like, well, it's really making things difficult. And like, just again, like he and I are the only people in the room. And then at one point, the sweet nurse goes, honey, I know you didn't really want the mirror, but like, she goes, you want to just try? And I'm so tired. I'm like, sure, like, whatever, let it like make this go. And I am thinking, Jess, that I'm gonna see, like, a head, okay? I have been pushing for 45 minutes. I'm like, "I'm gonna see the top of this baby's head." And I remember my last cervical check, she was like, "Oh, there's hair." And I was like, "Ah," like, you know? And also, again, side story, and I keep doing it, but I had gotten a sugaring wax, like, a week and a half prior to this delivery, and so at first when the doctor was like, "Oh my gosh, there's hair," and I was like I looked at my husband, I was like, "There better not be. I paid $120 for there to not be a single lick of hair," and he's like, "Babe, I think
Stop.
she's talking about the baby's head, the baby," and I was like, "Oh my god, there's hair," and then it turned into this little cute, like, "Oh," so that was just, like, a funny side thing, so I'm like, "Okay, she said there's hair, I'm gonna see hair," like, I was all excited, right? She pulls this mirror in between my legs. Doctors, and I look, and it is, like, maybe a silver dollar's worth of a head, maybe? And I looked at my husband, I was like, "Get it out. Get it out." That was supposed to be motivating. I was like, "We are not anywhere near where we need to be, and I am so tired."
Did you push with the mirror or
Oh,
that was it?
no, like, she just kinda
That
was
was
like yes, she just was kinda
okay.
trying to show me, like, "Look, there's baby's head," like, motivating me, and I was like, "Get it out of my sight." I was like, you cannot tell me that I've been pushing for almost an hour and that's it. This is where we are?"
I wish though that she would have told you to try to push with the mirror
Like, wish it.
because
It probably would have been more motivating, but I think I was just so discouraged. I was just like, "We have to be farther than this, like, you have got," and then
mhm.
that's when the first, like, set of panic was like, "Oh my god, we're gonna have a C-section." Like,
Mm.
that's where we're at because I was like, I know that when, like, my panic with wanting to get the epidural and being like, "I have to sleep because I don't know what it's like to push one baby out, let alone 2," and my worst fear was having to heal both ways, was having
Yes,
to heal
same.
vaginally and from a cesarean, and I was like, "I really don't wanna do that." And so at this point, we've been pushing, we're starting to get somewhere, and Elena baby A starts having D cells and down into the 60s, which is very, very low. And because her heart rate's been in the 140s, that's like typical for a baby in utero, even a newborn. And the doctor looks at me at one point, she's like, I need you to push like your baby's life depends on it. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, I am pushing like everybody's life depends on it. Okay. Like my life, baby's life, your life, like I am giving it all I've got. And that's when she kinda looked at me and looked at my husband, she goes, "If I just do the smallest episiotomy,
Mm.
I think you will have the give that you need." She's just like, Your tissues are just really tight, and we're not getting where we need to be, and the baby needs to come out." And he, again, sweet husband, hand on leg, talking to the doctor, looking at me, kinda trying to relay as if we're not all in the same room. And he's like, "She said," and I was like, "I don't care, just do it. Like, just do it. Get it done and be done with it. We need to get them out." And so she did she's like literally a centimeter, and then I did end up having a grade 2 tear, but once we got Elena out, they told me, they're like, "Well, if baby A comes out and baby B stays head down, it doesn't flip, we'll wheel you right across the room back into your L&D room with your mom and your aunt, and you can push baby B out." And I was like, "Great." Elena comes out, and finally, and it was like the biggest wave of relief, and my husband's like, "It's a girl," and I was shocked because I thought they were boys. Like, my best friends and I totally thought they were boys.
I can't believe that you waited until
I can't believe nobody blew
delivery.
it. I can't believe that nobody blew it. With how many ultrasounds we just had to be so good about being like, "We're not finding out the gender. And we even had the same ultrasound tech for, like, 80% of our ultrasounds. She's like, "Kara, I know." And I'm like, "I know, but I gotta tell you because someone's gonna slip up." And it was funny because both doctors and ultrasound techs throughout the pregnancy would say he and she, like, I think just out of habit.
Mhm.
But I was like, "We're not finding out." Nobody ruined it for us, nobody. So it was such a blessing. And he looked at me and he's like, "It's a girl." And I was like, "It's a girl?" And I was like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "I'm pretty sure." And they whisk her off. She did like a little cry and they whisk her off right away to the little NICU. It's like a little drive-through window, like literally. They like hand over the NICU team. And I remember being so worried about that because I work with the respiratory therapists that are on the NICU team. I work with them in the PICU. And so I remember being like, nobody that I know is going to be like, speaking of like consenting to like medical students and things like that. I was like, "I'm sorry, no students and no trainees, because I may work with these people one day." Like,
Mm, mhm.
I can't be face to face with someone who's been all up in my legs, like, I'm so sorry, like, I can't do it. And normally, I'm all on board for that stuff, but I was like, "Not this." So, I remember worrying, being like, "Where are the where are the RTs gonna be?" And they're like, "Don't worry, they're in the NICU room, we let her, like, pass baby through the little drive-through window, like, you don't have
That's
to worry
so
about it."
cool.
Really cute, actually, it was looking back, it was actually really cute. So they get her out, and I'm like, "Oh my god, we get a break, sweet relief. I'm gonna get pushed back in the room, like, this is gonna be great." And the doctor just, like, looks over my knees, and she's like, "Baby B is right there, just keep pushing." And I, like, looked at my husband again, like, "Is she so for real? Is she joking?" And he was just like, "No, like, I think you're almost done." I'm like, "What do you mean you think I'm getting a break? Like, this is my time to have a break." And she was not kidding, and at this point, mind you, there's already been a shift change. Elena was born at 7:33 PM, and there's a shift change. So in the middle of all this, they're like one by one coming up to me, nurses, doctors, anesthesiologists. "Hey, Kara, thank you so much. We're stepping out. So and so's taking over." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, okay, don't care. Like, thank you so much, but bye bye." Like I got bigger fish to fry right now. And so I've had a full, complete like staff change at this point. And this new doctor, she's like, "Yeah, just keep pushing. Baby B's right there." And I'm like, "There's no way." And she's like, give me 5 pushes." And I'm like, "Okay." So we start, counting again, and she was not joking, literally 2 minutes later, and Nina was out, and I didn't hear her cry, which kinda made me panic, but Josh was like and I was like, "It's a girl, right? Like, I know they're supposed to be identical, but you just never know, right?" And he's like, "I didn't see." And I'm like, "What do you mean you didn't see?" And he's like, "I think so." And then he asked the doctor, he's like, "Baby B was a girl, right?" And the doctor's like, "I didn't see either. Did anybody see what baby B was?" And I was like, "Listen, people, I just pushed 2 children out in a matter of minutes, and you're telling me no one could do me the decency to, like, check between their legs and make sure that, like, they were both girls." Like, I mean, I know they should be, but, like, that's not the point. And so, yeah, so they end up finishing. I have to have stitches, obviously. They finished that up, which was obviously less than ideal, not as comfortable even with the epidural. Um and which is, like, at this point starting to wear off, and they wheel me back in, and my mom and my aunt are in there, and they're like, "You did it," like, all excited, and they're like, "What are they?" And I was like, "I can't tell you," because Josh wanted to be the one to announce the gender. And I really wanted him to have that because he wanted to be, like, catching babies, cutting cords, doing all the
Mm.
things, and that was an experience that he didn't get to have, and so much like there was a lot of things that didn't happen the way I wanted to, like, I really wanted him to have that one thing that he could, like, have with the delivery, and so I'm like, "I can't tell you," and they're like, "Oh my gosh, well, like, where is he?" And I'm like, "He's in the little NICU room with the girls," like, checking on or with the babies, I didn't say girls. And so he comes in, and I have the same thing, I have the video, and he's in his little bunny suit. He looks so tired, poor guy. And they're like, "Okay, okay, we're ready." And he's like, "Okay, it's Elena Giselle and Nina Brielle," because we had, like, 2 boy names and 2 girl names picked out. And they were so excited, and it was just, like, the whole video is hysterical because I was so swollen from, like, pushing, like, I'm surprised I didn't pop blood vessels, but I was so swollen and I still had my little bonnet on. And the nurse was like, "Hey, honey, I gotta push on your stomach." I'm like, "Okay, it's fine." And now I have the shake. So now I'm like, I'm doing the whole shaky thing. And he's trying to show me pictures of them. And they look good, but they have the little bubble CPAP on. So it's like a little nasal cannula with like a little hat to keep it on.
Mm.
And he's like, "They don't really think that they need it, but they're just doing it to be, like, supportive." And he goes like, "I just need to know, like, are you okay with them getting donor milk, or do you just want them to have formula?" It was, like, all these little questions that they were asking him, and I was like, "Uh well, no, I don't think I want them to have donor milk." But then he's like, "Okay, well, then they have to have formula." And I was like, "Well, I don't think I really want them to have formula either." Like, and he was just doing his best to, like, relay the questions as they were coming. And he was so sweet because he's like, "I don't wanna make any decisions without you." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess they can have it, that's okay." And he goes, "Okay." And I'm like, "Well, show me the pictures," you know, and he's like, "Okay, so Elena, baby A, was 4 pounds, 2 ounces." And in the video, I'm like, "You named them?" And he was like, "Well, yeah, baby A is Elena, right? And baby B is Mina." Like, the panic on his face of being like, "Oh, no, like, I messed up," you know? Like, I was like, and it was a very short-lived thing because 'cause I'm like, "Yeah, I guess that makes sense," but I was like, I didn't even get to look at them. I didn't even get to, like, do they even look like an Elena and a Nina? You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, and he was like, "Well, I thought baby A was Elena and baby B was," you know? It was so funny, and so I remember just being like, "Okay, it's fine," you know, like, it was a very short-lived moment, but I remember just being like, "Named them, like, without me," and he's like, "Listen, there was a lot of questions," like, you know, poor guy's just trying to,
It's a
like,
lot going
survive.
on.
Yeah, and then I was so thankful, but because I knew the RTs, they actually wheeled them by my room before they took them to the NICU so I could see them. And that was really, really, really like, really good for my mama heart, and they just brought them in, and I got to see them, and they were so tiny, they looked like little bruised monkeys almost, like, these just, like, little tiny nuggets, but Elena was 4 pounds, 2 ounces, and, Nina was 3 pounds, 14 ounces. They were both, like, 7 roughly 17 and a half ish inches long, and I was just looking at them, and I was like, "Oh my goodness," like, "Those are ours," like, "They are ours, and they're girls," and I was just, like, amazed, and you know, obviously, the aftermath and postpartum is its own, like, ball game, but I remember, like, we got back to my room, and they were like my best friend went and got us the same one that recorded our, finding out about them, Tage. She went and got us our In-N-Out, our, like, first meal as mom and dad, and she, like, wrote it on the box, and it was so cute, and
Hmm.
we had our In-N-Out meal, and I remember the nurse was like, "Okay, like, you had a pretty good, like, episiotomy, so we're gonna, like, monitor you," and I was like, "Okay, I need to get to the NICU, like, I need to get down there," and she's like, "Okay, well, we would rather monitor you." I was like, "No, I'm leaving." Like, I'm going to the NICU, and, like, me being stubborn me, I brought my work badge, so I was able to go through, like, the back hallways and stuff, so yeah, I kinda cheated the system there, but we get to the NICU, I'm like, I'm sorry, you can come check on me in a little bit, but, like, I'm going to see my babies." And we got over there, and I just remember that first night was so, like, surreal, and we were just so grateful, and I was like, "I we had them vaginally, and that was incredible." Like, all things considered, it was just, like, such a miracle, like, the way it all went down. You know, and then the coming weeks came, like, you know, the reality of, like, your babies are in the NICU, and, you know, we were super blessed. It was low season for the Ronald McDonald House, which is right across the street from our hospital, which is, like, a home for families who have hospitalized children, that live farther away. They can, stay there, and it's basically free, but they ask for, like, a small donation if you're able to do it. And there's, like, meals and kitchens that you can cook your own food. You get your own like pantry and fridge space. It's a phenomenal place,
Hmm.
and we actually didn't even really qualify to stay there because of like the mileage distance from our house, but because they had such a low census. They were like, we can actually accommodate you guys. And so from Christmas night on, I did not go home the entire time until the girls came home.
Oh.
And they were there for 40 days. Yeah. So my sweet husband, he worked through the whole time while they were in the NICU so that he could use his baby bonding leave when they came home. So he
Hmm.
was going to work every day up in the high desert, which is a solid hour drive for him both ways, and then spending the whole afternoon in the NICU with me until about 10, 11 o'clock at night. And then we would go across the street, shower, go to bed. He's, like, listening to me get up every 2.5, 3 hours to pump to try to get my milk to come
Hmm.
in, like, just truly I mean, again, the village that it takes is insane. Um, but they were just little, they were off of their oxygen within 12 hours. They were like, "They really don't need it, we just did it to be safe." And they're just little nuggets, and they just need a chance to grow and gain weight, and, you know, they were just like, "That's really it." And my mom and my aunt and friends and in-laws and people would come and visit and come sit with us, and yeah, the scrubbing was real, all that's it's a whole thing, but, such a blessing to be able to be at my place of work because I knew a lot of the people, and, they were just you know, we ended up having primary nurses that we still talk to. They came to the girl's first birthday and have had lunch with them since and gotten to, like, share life updates with them, and so it's like the community that came out of that, like, as hard as it was, and there were some really rough, dark days, was definitely in therapy throughout that time, and out of everything, the highs and the lows of those days, I realized, like, wow, like, God truly orchestrated it the way that it needed it to be. Like, when the girls came home, I was, like, completely healed. I wasn't having to take care of myself, like, in the way that, you have to freshly postpartum on top of
Mhm,
2 little babies that you're also trying to breastfeed and, like, produce milk for, and, um, my husband was able to take off the 6 weeks that, when they first came home, and my aunt and my mom and my in-laws just, like, cleaned up my house and, like, had everything ready, and just, like, it was just such a blessing because I look back and I'm like, "I don't know how you brought 2 little babies home, right, with already having a toddler, right off the bat, and then, like, just adjusted." Like, so many props because it's crazy.
we did not do that alone, like,
No, but still, even not alone, like, just the fact that you took them home shortly after they were born, like, amazing, like, that's the dream, obviously, but I'm like, the NICU, and there's so many stigmas about the NICU, and I could go on and on and on about that for days, but the one thing I will say, they set us up for so much success. Like, yes, the
mm,
girls took a bottle, breastfed, and took a pacifier, they did all the above, but they took to all 3, and they could be soothed with all 3, and it was like they were already on a 3 to 4-hour schedule when they got home. So it was like right off the bat, I mean, don't get me wrong, we were still exhausted and paranoid and all the things, but right
absolutely.
off the bat, they were pretty much on a 3-hour schedule from the get-go, and the only reason we didn't let it go longer at first is because they were preemie, we had to make sure that they weren't losing weight because we had, like, really back-to-back, doctor's appointments to check on their weight, but I remember being like, wow, looking back now, and there were days where we would call parents and be like, "You need to come over right now. Like, you need to come over. Like, we just need to just come in. Like, we just need a couple more hours." But, like, again, 3-hour increments of sleep is not normal for anybody. And, like, your husband has to be up with you every time you are. Like, it's not like you get to switch off. Like, there are 2
Mhm,
babies to feed, and for us, our system, I'll just share quickly, is that, like, we would bottle feed them at night, and while we were bottle feeding, I would pump. So I would put on, like, my portable pumps. We would each we would make a bottle, we would each feed the girls, and then we would lay them down, and the milk that I pumped at night was milk for the next night. And so
mhm,
then I would breastfeed during the day, and then we did end up having to supplement half and half with formula just because my milk was too thin for them, and they were having a lot of reflux, and they would just spit it out constantly. And then once we started doing half and half, like half formula, half breast milk, they were able to hold it down much better. And
mm,
so
mhm.
that's what we ended up doing, but when I would tandem feed them, it was just obviously just breast milk, which was a little nerve-wracking because they would spit that up a lot too. So I was like, "I'm doing all this work to put you both on at the same time. Could you please just keep it down?"
For sure.
And that was a 2 to 3 man job too, like, just getting them on. I will say, like, all things considered, we were so blessed for them to come home in the state that they did, on the schedule that they were on, adapted to different, like, soothing techniques. It just made our life, like, so much easier, and so I will forever be indebted and thankful for our NICU nurses who, I floated to the NICU, and they have 3 babies sometimes, and they're not that sick, but they're just, like, on a schedule, and they're very serious about their feeds. They're like, "No, they need to eat because this is what" them not getting their feed or taking all their bottle by themselves is, like, you're preventing them from going home, basically.
Right, right.
And that's the
Mhm.
only thing at some point for some of these babies that is keeping them from being stuck in the hospital and getting to go home. And so seeing their diligence and being like, "Nope, they need to nipple feed, they need to take the bottle," was just really encouraging. But yeah, it was crazy. I know that was super lengthy, I'm so sorry, but it was
No,
just
it's good.
such an incredible experience.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you sharing everything, and I think people will get so much out of this episode, and I think we have obviously had so much to talk
I
about and
know, I'm so
definitely need to do a follow-up round 2
Yes.
because there's so many more, like, topics that I wanna talk about, but one thing that I do wanna ask, and I feel like you've already given so many good tidbits, but
Mhm.
if you could have a heart-to-heart with the twin mom or give her a piece of advice, what would you tell her?
Oh my goodness. Ugh, I don't know how you don't get emotional with that. So many things.
I cry when I edit these podcasts, I cry every time.
Yeah, I literally told you, I think I've cried in every episode at some point in a good way, but, uh, honestly, and I don't even mean to be, like, cliche, but it's something that, like, you told me, like, you in one of our probably late night Instagram messages back and forth, you I said something like, "You got this, mom, like, you were made for this." And I know you lead a lot with that in your podcast and your entry and your opening, but, like, it is, like, it's exhausting and it takes just about everything from you and then some, and there are days that are better than others, and there's nothing like it. There's nothing I would not change a single thing about our story or what we had to go through to get where we are, but, like, just knowing at the end of the day that, like, there is no one better for your babies than you to be their mom is, like, the most, like sorry. Um,
And
it's
I'm
just, like
sorry, I know you're, like, 33 weeks
no,
pregnant.
it's okay, it's good, it's a good I'm at that point now where I'm like, "Let's just welcome the tears." Um, but it's a good just, like, knowing that, like, God made you for this, you know what I mean? And, like, you are capable, and you're not gonna do it perfect, and you're gonna mess up, and that's okay, and there's grace in that, but it's like you are the perfect mom for your babies and for your twins, and somewhere between pregnancy and delivery and raising toddlerhood and childhood and all of that, like, you are gonna be the perfect person for them, and what an honor to get to be that person, you know what I mean? What an honor to get to love them and be loved by them, and witness all the things that you get to witness, chaos included. But just yeah, I think it would just be that, just remembering that, like, you 100% were made for this, and there's nothing that I'm more proud of than being their mom. And so, I'm so nervous for this little one to come because I'm like, all the things that I think you feel with, like, your 2nd pregnancy or baby or 3rd baby with, like, "Oh my gosh, are they gonna not feel like the center of our world anymore, and they're gonna have to share us," and then I'm like, "Yeah, but that's was the difference with having 2 first was, like, they've always had to share. They've always had to share me. They've always had to share daddy, they've always had to be sharing a lot of things." So I'm hopeful that they'll hopefully adapt okay. But I'm also nervous like anybody would be, I think, but I also just know they're gonna be the most phenomenal big sisters, and I just, like, cannot wait to witness it, and especially because we don't know the gender again, like, if it's a baby girl, they're just gonna be, like, so excited because it's another girl and they're gonna get to match them, and if it's a boy, I feel like it's gonna be a whole other another level of love and just excitement, so and they're obsessed with their baby dolls right now. They're obsessed with their baby cousin, so I'm, like, hopeful that, like hopeful. I'm hopeful. That's the best way I could put it, but yeah, I think that would be my biggest, I guess, little tidbit, and I don't know if that's been said before, it probably has, but that is just something that I think really resonates with me, so definitely.
I love that. And I just would say, I feel like it's gonna be so good. Like, you handled 2 first. Having a singleton, you're gonna be like, "Oh, 1 baby? I got this."
I hope so. I literally have told so many friends, I'm like I've had friends that have had, like, colicky babies and different things who, like, went through it when we were, like, the girls were newborns, and them asking us questions, and I'm like, I'll tell you what we do, but I really feel like it's a whole different ballgame, Like, I don't know what works for us may not work for you, and, I'm actually really nervous. Like, hopefully, God willing, we have a nice smooth delivery, another vaginal delivery, and we can come home and nobody has to do any NICU time or anything like that. We're not anticipating that, but I'm like, "Oh gosh, like, what if I have this baby in, like, 24 hours, they want me to go home with it?" Like, they want me to go home, and then I have 2 toddlers at home, and I don't even know, am I gonna be able to walk up my stairs? Like, I'm literally, like, so nervous, and I don't know why. We have my mother-in-law and my mom who are amazing, and my aunt, like, we have an amazing village, so it's not gonna be impossible, but it's obviously gonna be an adjustment, but I am just like, "Oh my gosh," like, w they're gonna send us home with this baby, and, like, I know how to take care of a newborn, that's not the problem, but, like, I still have to heal, and then I have 2 other little ones who love to jump on me, and I'm like, "I'm scared." So, it's gonna be interesting, but I am excited. I know it's gonna be good. So, I'm super excited.
I think the biggest thing, and I feel like maybe as a twin mom, you've gotten good at this, or maybe the second time you will. With Kaya, like, I did not want help. I was like, I'm on a
Mm.
mission to prove that I know how to be a mom, yada, yada. With the
Yeah.
boys, I'm like, help, SOS. Like, I will literally
Oh,
ask for help from
100%.
anybody.
Yeah, I think there was
So,
a little bit of both of that for me with the girls because I was like I obviously wanted to prove, like, I'm one of few people in my life that have twins, so I was like, I know like, I was made for this and I can do this. And then the days where I'm, like, sobbing and my mom or my husband are having to help me put a nipple shield on or, like, whatever, giving me sips of water because I'm holding two babies, heads, like trying to breastfeed. Yeah, I think now like that all that pride is gone. Like it is gone. And I'm just gonna be like, help. I'm waving my white flag. Like, please just come. Just come. I don't even know what I need you to do at this point, but I think that's definitely gonna have to be a surrendering moment for me. It's gonna be humbling, but I'm trying to already put myself in that mindset so that I can like be okay and have my people on standby and be like, I'm just gonna be real and vulnerable with you guys. Like, this is what I need, and I might need you to come watch my 3 children so I can go to the bathroom. Like, that would be really nice. So that would be great.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, but it'll be good. I'm excited.
Well, I'm so excited for you guys too. And of course, like you were made for this, but that doesn't mean that you have to do it alone, you
Yeah.
know? Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy twin mom life to chat.
Yes.
It has been so fun to talk all the things twin to twin transfusion and a vaginal delivery. And I'm so excited for you and bringing home your newest addition. And I can't wait to find out if it's a boy or a girl.
I know. Thank you so much for having me. This was seriously so much fun, and I cannot wait to hear more episodes. So thank you for doing this and creating this space for us twin mamas out there.
Thank you for taking the time out of your busy twin mom life to listen along. I hope this podcast shed some light on a topic that's been on your heart and gave you more confidence as a twin mama. If you know a twin mom, please send this her way. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Check out the show notes to be connected with today's guest and get discount codes for brands I love. Think clean beauty and supplements. See you next Thursday. Until then, you were made for this.